Welcome back to the Trifecta Airsoft Podcast. I'm E-Rock, your host. Thanks for being here. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you never miss another podcast. I want to tell you about the next giveaway we're doing. It is Friday, August 12th. If you would like to join that giveaway, join our Patreon or purchase a ticket through our website, trifectaairsoft.com, and you will be entered into that giveaway. And what is the winner getting? The Echo 1 PSR sniper with a scope, a 3x9 scope on it, a scope cam, also an action cam with a case and accessories, a 5,000 count bottle of BBs, and a bunch of swag. Join before August 12th. Join our Patreon or get a ticket and you will be entered. Thanks for being here. Let's get into the podcast. Man, your background looks awesome.
Thanks.
Welcome to the podcast.
All right, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Captain K. I love the shirt. I love your call sign. I think it's cool, man.
I've had it for since 2013 or so.
That's what so I was stalking your Instagram, looking up some stuff on you, to see, because I just found out about you like 2 days ago from Honey Badger.
He's been very active, liking all my stuff, and just he spreads the good to everybody's Instagrams everywhere. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude.
And I actually got the pleasure of meeting him at High Ground last weekend.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that's how you came up in our conversation. Was he asked me if I was going to go to that event, and I said, he texted me through Instagram and said, "Are you going to this grand opening?" And I said, what is it? Which one? And because I forgot, like the day before, I had liked, Evic's story on, the grand opening thing, and so I was like, what is it? And he goes, the Evic grand opening in Houston, or no, he said the Evic grand opening. I was like, oh, well, where is it? He's like, it's in Texas. I'm like, bro, no, I'm not driving that far. And he's like, so anyway, that came up in the that was our text. That came up in the conversation the other day on our podcast, which will come out in a couple of days. Well, he goes, well, Captain K drove out there, and he's like out there by you because you live in Georgia. I'm in South Carolina. And I said, oh, shit, I can't say anything now. You fucked it up, man. Oh, shit, I had to go out there now.
It was a nutty last minute decision. I was hoping the guys from my team would be able to go, and they couldn't. The wild thing is I actually fly for free with work, but the girlfriend wanted to come with, and I wanted to play, and checking airsoft guns in the airplane is not an easy task, so...
Well, speaking of that, so a couple things, but and we'll get into your work and stuff too, because you work, you're a mechanic, right, for the airlines?
Yeah.
And you used to be an auto mechanic, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but quick question on the traveling by, flying with airsoft guns. So you work in that industry. So is it really that difficult to check those in? Like what process does somebody have to go through if they wanted to fly from another, from this state to that state with airsoft equipment?
My understanding of it is that you actually have to have two separate cases. I've been told that the gun has to be in two separate parts, so you separate the receiver top and bottom in one case, and then the magazines can't be carried in the same case as the gun.
Ah, okay. So now, how about like gear? Are they uptight about gear, like helmets and all the
That
tactical gear, vests and plate carriers and shit?
that I actually hadn't looked into yet.
Yeah.
I looked into it very little before I was like, no, this is too much trouble. I'm driving.
So when you went to this event out there in Houston, you were able to fly though?
I had to drive out there just
Oh,
because she can't fly with me yet. We're not married, and
yeah.
because I'm not full time in the company yet, which I should have been by this point.
Gotcha.
I can't just add her as a travel companion and all that. So I wanted the companionship on the drive, especially when the guys couldn't go with me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you did drive out there. Shit. Yeah, that's what was that? 12, 15 hours?
So what made it even crazier was we drove 12 hours in. We went to the event and we drove 12 hours right back out.
Damn. Holy shit, dude. That is yeah. That's like long distance truck driving, you know?
Oh yeah. And
Damn.
I made it through 20 of the 24 hours before she's like, "All right, I'm going to take over. You're falling asleep over here."
No shit. You hit those bumps on the side of the road on the freeway, you're like, "Oh, that's my cue. Okay, next."
Yeah, it's not fun.
No shit. Oh, I've been there plenty of times, I tell you. Yeah. That's good, man. It was really cool you went out there. So you said it was spur of the moment. What like how did that come up?
Around me and the guys did my buddy he Ubers, so they're all the three guys that I play airsoft with. They're all actors, so when they don't have work, they do side job stuff. So he Ubers and he actually gets paid to carry this advertisement sign on top of his car, but he's got to drive so many hours. I said, "Hey, I know what you need to do. Let's just drive 12 hours out to Houston." And we were almost there. Like as of the weekend before, they were kicking it around still, and then he's like, "Dude, I don't got the money." So,
Yeah.
shout out to those guys. I went, a big thing that pushed me over to driving 12 hours myself was, those guys couldn't be there, so I was determined to get there.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. Yeah, speaking of your buddies, I'm scrolling through your Instagram, today, earlier today, and then tonight before we got on, and I saw you dressed up in this badass looking suit on one of your pictures, and I swear it said something about The Walking Dead. So you were, is that your buddy Jason? Because I think you tagged him in it, and I saw, saw his Instagram or whatever. So how did you guys get into this? And was it The Walking Dead?
Yes, we were actually on the TV show.
Oh my God.
I'm actually an absolute rookie with all that. So the way it came about for me personally was my sister's been on the show for well over 2 years now, and she
Shit.
started photo doubling. She did extra work, and then she actually graduated to the point where she started doing all kinds of jobs for the main actors themselves. So she didn't even have to act anymore. She was doing babysitting and dog sitting for main like directors and cast members and all that. So
Oh
she
shit.
she rubs elbows with everybody now. But she just we were it was a bad time. I wasn't really making much money at the auto place I was at, and my dad had actually just passed. I was off work for a while,
Mhm.
and she said, "Why don't you come film a couple days?" And they hook you up even as background on that show. She said, "All right, you got to take 2 COVID tests before each filming day." She said the COVID tests pay an entire day's pay. So we were making
Holy sh-
$1.25 just to go test. And
Holy
I'd go
crap.
take off on lunch, go get my nose swabbed, drive back and make that on top of my work money, and I'd take 2 days off and make a good chunk of change.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
And so I met all the guys there, and they are the professionals. They have been I know some of them were there before the final season's happenings. With those guys are the stormtroopers. They call them troopers. They look like stormtroopers, but it's straight out of the comics.
Yeah.
And they are the fighting force, whether you like them or not. They're the fighting force of the final large civilization that the main characters come across. So you see guys like Daryl and Rosita and all these main characters intermingling with them and working for them. But these guys started the three guys that I play airsoft with. They started back before that, but they ran all the way through as the troopers. So they were there from the end of season 10 all the way through 11, which was, to my understanding, like 24 episodes. So these guys stuck
Holy
it out.
cow. Yeah. No shit. That's crazy.
And I did all my episodes. I got to work with some pretty cool main characters. The guy who plays Daryl, Norman, was in all three of my episodes, I think. And the funniest thing about him was that armor that we were wearing. It's horribly, horribly uncomfortable, which from being in the military earlier on, it wasn't anything to me. And then Airsoft, it wasn't a big deal, but it's
Right.
really uncomfortable. And Norman had the script rewritten multiple times so that he didn't have to wear the armor. And the first time he wears the armor, they're like, you have to wear it. You don't have any choice. It was the main episode that I got most of my FaceTime in. And the first thing he does is walks over to me where I'm standing as just an extra outside, and we're not supposed to talk to them outright, but if they talk to us, it's good.
Yeah.
And he says, "How do you guys wear this comfortably?" And I was just like, "Dude, you don't. I'm sorry to tell you, you can't do it."
There's no tricks, bro. This
Nope,
is gonna be
it was
hurting
bad.
until end of the scene here. Holy shit.
So it was like this like Under Armour thermal gear underneath the black, and then the armor was this plasticky foam stuff.
Yeah.
And so in the cold, it did nothing for you. In the wind, it did nothing for you. And then in the heat, it burned you up. So it was rough.
Oh my god. That's terrible. It's like, dude, who puts these things together, you know? Like, what the hell?
Was My sister actually worked for the lady who did costume, and to my knowledge, it wasn't designed by somebody who was it wasn't designed by them specifically. So I think it was somebody that never had to wear it and wasn't thinking about the comfort or anything.
Right. Because there's so many
So
things now, like, I can imagine, like, 30, 40 years ago, before, internet, like, where you can transfer information easily and people are making their own molds and 3D printing and all this kind of shit nowadays. But back then, I can imagine it would be difficult. Like, hey, I don't know, these outfits would be really uncomfortable. But it seems like today there's so many things to put together, and things to find online where you can say, hey, you can make this thing look shiny like it's plastic, or like thick armor, but it's really not, and it's very comfortable to wear, and mobility and stuff. But
well,
yeah,
I
it's
think it was all cost efficiency because they needed so many of us in the background. Now
gotcha.
the hero costumes, as they called them, that the main characters got to wear, I think those were a lot cushier than what we were wearing, but and well maintained too. Ours were just
Oh
like
yeah.
swapped around everybody, and
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Oh yeah. You pick up somebody else's pieces and it's all like dripping
yeah.
sweat, and you're like, oh man, whose body odor is this? Come here. That's you, man. You smell like onions. Come here. Oh
they
shit.
they said there was a time early on where everybody was kind of keeping the same costume, but during COVID, there was a lot of issues with the film industry, and it wasn't they weren't active during COVID, but when they came back, there was a lot of issues where a lot of the main people that were with them the whole time, they just kind of dipped out. So
Mm,
everything just started getting thrown around, and there are people like me that were coming in for 2 or 3 episodes, just I mean whatever they
yeah.
could get. So
That makes sense. So skeleton crew, kind of like they've lost,
yeah,
a handful of experienced people, and then a lot of the background guys, like extras, I guess. You guys, like
yeah,
you guys or whatever, are always pretty new, I guess,
yeah.
right? Because even if somebody's been an extra, uh, like I played an extra for since in the last 5 years, for 5 years or whatever. But you're not. It's not something you do weekly or monthly. It's usually here and there, kind of sporadic and different, whatever.
Actually, for the show itself, those guys were actually it would take breaks here and there, but those guys were actually filming almost weekly.
Wow.
I did 2 episodes, one right after the other, and we filmed them one week after the other. I think there may have been like a weather delay in between, so that was the only thing. But they
Yeah.
pay you a whole day for that, so you get paid for not even being there. and then they'd send you over to the next week. But I mean, if you stuck with it and did every episode, you were there almost weekly until they took breaks.
Oh wow, that's cool. Okay. See, I guess I have no knowledge of this, like background knowledge, or I've never been involved in any of this kind of stuff. So my assumption was that they like the with mass amount of people, bigger groups where they have to have a lot of extras or something. In a TV show, in a movie, they can it's kind of one and done, because it's
Yeah.
they set the scenes and it's done. But a weekly series, I thought that maybe they would take that they would film extras in large groups, uh, like a couple days of filming, not just for each scene for that one episode, but just random. Like, okay, we can use this for 2 weeks from now, or just kind of edit it a little bit and use it for the background for this. So I didn't know it was like, hey, we're gonna use film you every week.
That was the interesting thing to me. So it was by location. So if they, within a small amount of time, if they needed different scenes from different episodes in the same location, they could film them all there if they wanted to use them in different episodes. And my favorite filming day was the one when I actually got I got all the FaceTime on there, because that was the thing. They said I was lucky because most of the time those guys were filmed, it was with goggles, helmet, mask, all that. You couldn't tell anybody from anybody else.
Yeah.
And so that day we were actually walking around the compound that we were stationed out of. It's like our little base, I guess. And there was so much FaceTime in those scenes. It was crazy. So I think I was able to pick myself out 5 different times in those scenes, and only one of them I was actually in full gear where you couldn't tell who I was. But the
Hmm.
rest of it was, you could full on tell, hey, that's me, or hey, Dalton's right there, one of our other guys, and or Jason's my favorite because if you actually Google Commonwealth, which is who our soldiers are supposed to work for,
Hmm.
you'll see him with the lady that plays Rosita come up all over the place because I guess it was a crucial scene or something like that. So I mess with him all the time about that. I'm like, dude, you're famous. You never said a line and you're famous.
Oh, that's wild. I actually followed that Commonwealth thing on Instagram. I followed that. Well, maybe it's the Airsoft team. Is that
Yes, that's our
okay?
team.
So that's your team. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, I just followed that because you had it tagged in one of your posts. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So that your team name come up from about
Yes.
that? Okay, The Walking
So
Dead.
that was just how we all met. There's 4 of us that play a lot, myself, Lucas, Jason, and Dalton. And then sometimes we'll get some other guys from set that'll come play with us. Jake and Marcus have both played with us, and then my sister and her roommate have said that they're going to come play at some point. So we're excited to just get as many people to come out and join us
Oh,
as we can.
dude, it's growing fast. Yeah, that's cool, man. So you didn't know Jason or any of those guys until you met them on set.
Yeah, not at all. I didn't have any clue.
Oh shit! And now, so how did it come up about Airsoft? While you're meeting them?
So it was the last day I filmed. I think we were filming really short, kind of zoomed out scenes, so you couldn't really tell who was who. Just for the final episode of that chunk of episodes, and we were sitting around waiting in the woods for another scene, and I want to say it was Jason was talking about, hey, Halloween's coming up. We want to go play a zombie event somewhere. And I heard Airsoft, and I was like, oh, hey, I play too. What are you guys talking about doing? And so we all talked back and forth about it. And unfortunately, we couldn't find an event like that. I know my home field that I used to play and work at back in 2012. They used to do one every year, but they're not around now.
Mm.
We couldn't find one, so and we actually didn't get around to talking about it again until the wrap party for background, which was in April, I think.
Mm.
And then they said, we're actually gonna, we actually all got face to face again. They said we're gonna do this, and so we ended up meeting at our local field there within a couple weeks, and ever since then we've all been hanging out a lot, on or off the airsoft field, getting to know each other really well, and it's been wonderful to find another group of friends through that.
Yeah, man, that is cool. Okay. Yeah, I saw his. You had him tagged in one of the posts, and I saw his Instagram, and then I think that's between you and him. I found your team, and I was like, oh, I think that's connected with the stormtrooper thing, And see, I didn't watch the last. Well, I think I watched the first season and part of the second season of Walking Dead, and I never kept up with it after that. So I got real busy, and I wasn't really watching TV very much. So I didn't know when I saw your suits. I'm like, honestly, that's the first time I saw them. I'm like, that's The Walking Dead. What the fuck? Stormtroopers in The Walking Dead? What's going on? Uh, so I'm terrible with this background knowledge on that stuff. But the outfits look awesome.
Um, it,
And if
w-
they're
it
tactical,
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and my whole goal, I mean, the pay was cool and all that, but my whole goal, I
right?
was like, I want to see myself in the episode.
Yeah.
So once I got that, I was like, yes. The first and last episodes I filmed, you couldn't tell who I was, but that one episode in the middle made it all worth it.
Well, do you mind if
And
I pull it up on screen? I'll share the screen.
yeah, go for it.
Because how did you get those screenshots, by the way? Those pictures on your Instagram of you in this, like, in that, was somebody taking pictures there, or did you
I
screenshot it
pulled
later?
him. I pulled him out of the episode, which I had to go about it some really stupid way because AMC's I think. Oh, I had to take a picture
Non-disclosure thing
of.
or something?
I had to take a picture of my TV screen. That's how I did it.
Okay, okay. I thought it looked a little grainy, and I was like, I wonder if somebody was taking a picture while you were filming or whatever. Like maybe it was low lighting, and
Yeah.
but yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Well, that's the coolest thing. I was actually so the fight that main episode I filmed the last scene. I was the only background in that scene. It was a real serious one, and I had to walk out of the room right at the beginning. So I
Yeah.
was able to watch the rest of the scene play out on multiple monitors in front of me where they were filming it.
Oh.
And the thing that blows me away is, you watch The Walking Dead and it looks all dark and,
Mm-hmm.
gloomy and all that. It's not edited. They do all of that on set and on camera live. It looks like that when it comes through the camera screen, which is the amazing thing.
Wow. Yeah, I
Those
wonder how
guys
the
are good.
camera picks that up without being grainy. Yeah, I
It
don't. That's wild. Okay,
the
interesting.
guys would come in between scenes and it'd be the same room, but they could actually add more light outside or cover up light from certain directions. So they all that they did on the fly. It was the
Oh my
coolest thing.
God, that's wild. Okay,
Those
it
guys are
must look.
heroes. That fascinates me.
Yeah, it must look better doing it that way than like more natural than trying to do it, editing that shit later, like digitally or whatever.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience to when you've watched. I mean, the secret, like you were saying, the secret to most of us is I when you talk to people, hey, have you watched the show or whatever? Most people are
Hmm.
like, oh, I watched the first season. I've never
Yeah.
seen it. I've watched a couple episodes. I tried to binge through it, and because my sister was in it, I wanted to catch up where she was at before I even knew I'd be on the show. And I got to six and a half, and trying to watch it all the way. It's a good show, but trying to watch all of that all at one time is just,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
that's what I found with most shows, to be honest, is the binge watching stuff. Like even a really good show, it's it gets to be too much. Like I remember we watched Breaking Bad probably 3 times, and when it first came out, and then oh, here we go. And then when just a couple years later or whatever. But it was the second time we watched it. We binged, we just were like bored one weekend. It was during the lockdowns, and everything's slow. And this is a few years before I started working again, and I was like, I started watching, and like that show's exciting and dramatic, and but it's got it's not a feel good show. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of episodes that end like you're just there's things that happen throughout it that makes you feel kind of shitty. And so just that one episode is fine, but you're right into the next, and then it just continues into the next and the next. And after like 4 hours of this shit,
Yeah.
you turn it off at the end of the night, and you're like, oh god damn, man, I feel like shit. What a like everyone is on meth, and everyone is just killing
Yeah.
kill each other. This impending doom kind of feel or whatever. There's a lot of shows that if you binge watch like that, it just gets too much. But if you watch it weekly, there's a couple shows I think they're starting to get back into that, man, because what was it, Halo on Paramount? The Halo show, they didn't release it all at once. It was weekly. There was a couple other ones that were kind of popular that came out recently that they were doing the same thing, and they had filmed them all, but they released them, one at a time. And maybe that's what people are going back to. I don't know.
To with their Disney Plus stuff, and there were several of them that I definitely watched, through 1 week at a time, as they were coming out, because it takes you back to your childhood at that point when you had to wait.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think people are starting to be like, yeah, it's kind of nice, having to have something to look forward to next week.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go live or share the screen. So,
Okay.
not go live, but that's what it's called on Discord. Is go live. But when I do that, you should get a notification or something to come up, or it might come up automatically. I don't know. But it should say watch stream if you can't see the third screen pop up.
Yeah. There goes.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I got your Instagram pulled up here, and this is the one of your pictures out of a handful here of you in the suit, and this is where you're unmasked. Where you don't have the helmet on, so you can see you're right there in the forefront.
Because I was trying to get that more military look like they wanted us to do, so no beard there.
Yeah, man. And then I'm gonna scroll through these. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are cool, man.
I actually was still in back then. I think one of those filming days actually coincided with when I was doing military stuff too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you about that after this, but you were
Okay.
in the army, is that right?
Yes, I did 8.5 years in the Army Reserve.
Okay. Yeah, that's a long time. So every year the 2 weeks and um, was it once a month, and then
Yeah,
2 weeks
once.
out in the summer?
Yeah. And sometimes it wasn't, they don't tell you that up front. Sometimes it's not in the summer. So you'd have some very interesting conversations with professors or bosses or whatever else. Like, sometimes it's not as advertised.
Right. Now, what during these pictures I'm scrolling through, explain what's going on here. Like, who's this guy in the background? Is he one of the helper guys or whatever? The grips or the key grip or something? The guy with the blue shirt.
There, he's one of the characters that's actually in the scene.
Okay.
That was that last one when I was the only background. It was a really intense scene. He was walking in. He's one of those characters that you don't like when he's in character. And he comes back to pay all the people. He sent Daryl and Rosita and two other guys in to his old mansion, I guess, that had been taken over by somebody. I don't know who it was. It may have been the Walkers. It may have been people, but to get his money back.
Yeah.
And he came in with Daryl and Rosita sitting there and drops the cash on the table and tells them thank you, and he says, where'd the other two guys go? And they got killed. And so they're kind of pissed off about the whole situation. And the general's sitting back in the corner of the room too, and he's not happy about it either. So it's just a real intense. So after I walk out, that guy walks in, the
Mm.
the young guy, and does all that, and then it's cuts to a real one of those serious Daryl looks where he looks back over his shoulder at the camera, and he's excellent in character. He just always looks like he's dead serious and
Yeah.
pissed off, and sometimes he looks like that when you run into him when he's not acting too. But he's he's a really great guy. Everybody loves to be around him.
That's cool. Now, whose boot is on this desk right here?
That's Daryl. He was
Okay.
kicked up there waiting, and Rosita was on the other side.
Okay. Let's see. Here we go. We
And
got
then
the other
that's an
side.
earlier scene where
Okay.
the young guy and his girlfriend walk in from back there, and that's the only shot I could get because it was so fast. That
Okay.
scene is right after. Remember, I told you he walked up to me
Yeah.
and asked how the armor wears comfortably. That's right where that happened at.
Oh, that's funny, dude. Yeah. Yeah, he don't look happy there.
No, it was the first scene in the armor. He wasn't.
He looks like he's about to pull his chest thing down, like get this thing out of my
Yep.
neck.
Yeah, he was not having it, but it was a good day. And the
That's funny.
guy right there, the guy in front of me with the red hair, that's Dalton. He's one of the guys that I play airsoft with.
Oh shit, nice. Okay. Man, that's cool. What a cool experience, man. So, how did your sister get into that in the first place?
She just wanted to do acting, and I um, I think she had taken classes, some classes, and tried to get with an agency years back, and she hadn't really gone anywhere with it since. But she just decided after college to get back into it, and she just answered the call to be a photo double for somebody. So that's like when they don't want to pay the main character to be in the scene, and this person looks close enough from a distance. And then she just took off from there. She's played all kinds of roles, died in all kinds of roles.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, so when they have this, you just like there's a website you can go to find these casting calls or something
Yeah,
like in your area
I
because
was
she didn't have
actually
to.
getting them through Facebook and all that.
Mm, yeah, that's cool.
Um, so there was a specific. They just gave it to a specific. I'm trying to think of what you call that, like an agency.
Yeah,
And a lot of times, I went directly through somebody that my sister knew. But a lot of times they'd say, "Hey, we need this person, this type of person for this type of role," and we knew when it was Walking Dead, but they wouldn't say it outright until you answered the call and all that.
gotcha. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, what a fun experience, man. One of the other guys I've talked with, he actually followed our channel when we first started. We were probably not even a year into making our YouTube channel, and he ended up starting his own YouTube channel, Airsoft channel, Caleb Tucker Airsoft, and he's up in Ohio, where I'm from, actually, not in the same area, a little bit farther from, but in the same state. And he was in a big movie
Yeah.
as a background. He was oh, I'm not gonna remember the name, but it had Mark Ruffalo in it. It was kind of like a based on true story. It was about the water being contaminated in I can't remember what state, but uh, all of these, all this guy's cattle, like this whole town, the like all the cattle were dying, and like, oh, within a couple days, because this plant, I can't remember if it was a chemical plant, some kind of manufacturing plant, had was contaminating the water. Well, and this is years ago, and Mark Ruffalo was the lawyer that took him on to prove all this stuff, and get kind of compensation for the victims or whatever that were dying from, and then the people started getting cancer and shit, in this town. I think it was called Dark Waters, actually. So Caleb Tucker he's got some screenshots as well, where he's a background in there. And he got to meet Tim Robbins, I think was a director on that. And I don't think he was an actor in there, but anyway, or maybe he was, but anyway, he was on set. So he got to meet him, but it was the same rule. Like, he couldn't talk, none of those guys could just go up to him, talk to him and stuff. And so Caleb went out to smoke a cigarette. Tim Robbins came out there and saw him, and started up a conversation with him. He was like, man, this is pretty cool. Got to meet some cool people.
An experience. I feel like if I would have done it all the time like they did, I would have met a lot more people.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Father Gabriel actually really likes being around the background people. So he would come talk to everybody, and he actually came and hung out at the wrap party for the end of the show back in April with everybody, just to shake hands and take pictures and everything. And of course, my sister's like, "This is no big deal. I hung out with him the other night and played Guitar Hero or something like that, or went to karaoke with him." I'm like, jealousy
Oh,
at
that's
that point.
funny. Right. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So you've had a
So
broad background. You have so you've been playing airsoft for a very long time.
yes,
Uh, I mean, it's very long. I mean, I've only just started our YouTube channel just 3 years ago, and that's my experience. And then I saw one of your posts. You had a notebook, like 3 sheets of notebook paper, with the name of each gun, like almost 100 guns listed on 3 different pieces of notebook paper that you hand wrote out. And I guess somebody, the way you said in the post, was somebody asked you, what, how many airsoft guns have you ever owned, right? And you wrote them all out. And it was what? How many?
so now there's a
It's
couple of
got
them
to,
that I
yeah,
haven't
because
written
that was
down.
back in June. Do you mind if I
We
put the
got,
picture up?
yeah, go for it.
Okay.
So now I think there's like three of them that I haven't put on there yet, because at High Ground we actually got two of the M4s for being in the first 50, and then the micro gun was a prize from the Golden. So yeah, it's a lot. So it's somewhere around 105 or something like that now.
Yeah, because I think in the post it was at 97,
Yes. So yeah,
and that was back in June.
I've played the Box of Awesomeness a couple times since then, just to, kind of buy sell trade with that stuff. And
Yeah.
so guns that I've actually played on field with is a lot less than that. I
Well, sure.
did a boatload of buy sell trade back around 2018, 2019,
Yeah.
and I was making really good money, just buying out people's collections that were getting out of the sport.
Oh, okay.
And you get the collection and you sell back for what you paid for it, and then there's a lot of stuff that I just kept. Uh, I kept a Glock, and I kept like a plate carrier and a bunch of other different things. Just and it was at that point, it's free.
Yeah,
You
right.
make back with. what you paid and you profit a little bit, and then stuff after the fact.
Yeah, no shit.
So
Well,
eBay, hop up, I was just like, so everything on my wall back then, like what's behind me now, probably in value rivals what I had back then a little bit, just because a lot of it's HPA.
yeah.
But back then I had so many cool pieces, and I'd gotten them for next to nothing compared to what they were worth, and they were all absolutely awesome pieces. Avalons and VFC Mark 18s are hard to find, and I had a guy at my work come to me one day and he said, "Hey, I've got some stuff from years ago that me and my brothers uh, played airsoft with." He said, "Do you want to take a look at it?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" He said it's been in storage for years. I'm thinking cheap stuff, spring guns, whatever. And he's like, "No, there's some electric stuff." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Just bring it up here and let me see it." This man brings out a G&G UMP 45, an
Oh
Echo
shit.
1 Scar H, a G&G Top Tech M16, and two early KWA 1911s. And I was like, this is ridiculously cool.
Oh
Like, I
my
expected
god.
nothing like this. Those
Right.
guns were incredible, and I think all of them. I mean, the 1911s were still being made; they were just later models, but all the rest of that stuff I think had been discontinued by that point. So it was
Oh
just,
my
and it was
god.
all frozen in time, from 2012. It had all just been packed away back in the boxes.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I bought it off
Yeah.
of him for pretty cheap. Yeah, I don't need to make bucks off of it or anything. He's like, I'll just take whatever you can give me. So,
Yeah.
but my best hands down purchase is a guy. I had guys up there that I played alongside, so a lot of us were the ones that were buying and selling and trading amongst each other.
Yeah.
So I had a guy, he comes to me and he says, "Hey, I have a Tokyo Marui AA-12, which is the three-barrel electric shotgun.
Oh
It's like a
shit.
$500 gun. They're
Yeah.
ridiculously rare to find here." And he said, "I'll sell it to you." I think it was functioning weird, but it was functioning. So I'll sell it to you for like 150 bucks or something like that. I was like, "Cool, I'll take it."
Yeah.
Well, he went to go test it after that and it was not working. So he said, "Well, it's a paperweight, 50 bucks and it's yours." I said, "Even better, I'll take it."
Oh shit.
And somehow I find a YouTube video on how to take this thing apart. It is the weirdest gearbox I've ever seen in my life.
No shit.
Take it all the way down, and it's a plastic piston, so it's got the normal teeth like an AEG, but then it splits
Right.
off into three heads for the piston heads for each barrel,
Oh my
and
god.
it's got some type of material wrapped around the end of it. I was like, "Oh, that's not supposed to be there." Took it out, put everything back together, and it was the first time I ever took an AEG apart, and it worked again afterwards.
Holy shit, dude. Good on
And
you,
that
man.
that thing was an absolute beast. I have to say the only thing with more barrels that I've owned now is that micro gun right there,
Oh, dude,
which
I was getting to that because that's something I want.
I never would have bought one because it's it's kind of impractical. But when
Right.
that thing's like $1,000 gun, and it was it was incredibly exciting because I bought four of the sacks from Evite for the opening. So you buy these ahead of time, you get them. You One of them was for $40 for and included the play ticket for the day, and then the rest were 15. I got them for the guys, and I actually pulled out of mine with the playing ticket in it. I pulled that micro gun, and then I pulled another golden ticket out of another one,
Oh my
which it was
god.
just for cheap spring startup set. But I mean, it was still
Right.
cool. Everybody I walked up to, they're like, "Holy crap, you got two of them!" It's like, yes. I mean, I went
Yeah,
there.
that's
My
awesome.
selling point to go was the cash cards, the playing cards that Evike puts in
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff in all their packages that they send you.
Yeah.
And I actually have most of them. And the way that they do their events, 4 days beforehand, they put out, "Here's the poker hands that you can have, and here's what you win for them." First
Mm.
come, first serve. There's a handful of each. And I read up on every single event they've done like that just about, and it's always been the Royal Flush is a huge prize. and they rank it by the uh, the hands on a poker table. So spades is the highest,
Mm-hmm.
and then so on down from there. And I have the royal flush and spades. The ace of spades is so hard to find; it's not even funny. And a guy who's a distributor sold a bunch of them to me for next to nothing, so I took it when I saw
Oh
that in there.
shit.
So I said I want to go win one of these contests, and that was I was still waffling on that 12 hours, and that was what pushed me over. I said the odds of somebody else being here with this are slim to none.
Yeah.
Now, now when I got there and showed the hand and all that, I actually have two of the flushes, clubs and spades. They called everybody back up to the stage, and that's where my ultimate frustration was with that event. Was they actually called everybody up on the stage and had everybody draw high card instead of checking the suits and all that. So I was
What?
right. I was the only one there with spades, but they changed for that specific event. They changed how they were doing it. So uh, I didn't win that, but it was
Oh my
still. I
god.
mean, they're just like, you have two gold tickets, you have two royal flushes. It's like,
Like, bro, what is this? A setup,
yeah, I said, I came out here to win. I mean,
right?
I came out, I mean, I drove 12 hours. I want to play this field and I want to win free stuff. That's what I came for.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
I grew up a NASCAR fan, and there's one thing a NASCAR fan loves, and it's free stuff. You go to the track, you want the free stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw a bunch of NASCAR pictures on your Instagram as well.
Yeah, I grew up on it. My granddad he worked for the pit crews,
Oh shit.
and
Okay.
he was a medic for, him and my nana were actually medics for Richard Petty's crew at one point, which was really exciting.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
he did debris spotting, he did all kinds of odd jobs, but the funniest thing about my granddad is this was, years and years ago. He would carry a camera around with him, and back then that wasn't common.
Right.
So everybody who he came in contact with thought he was press. So this man went all kinds of places that he was
No
never
shit.
supposed to go, and
That's awesome.
he's he's published, and I feel like a lot of those that he got published were places that he wasn't supposed to be.
No shit.
My favorite picture of him is he's standing somewhere at one of the tracks, and the sign in front of him on the fence says official photographers only, and of course he's not supposed to be there. So
Oh
he was a
man.
hero. He was a hero to me. He was a good man, and he's COVID got him before we knew what COVID was. It was like a month beforehand.
Gotcha.
But I his spirit lives on because I probably 4 or 5 different times have snuck into the garage at Atlanta, which is something that he would have done.
Oh man, that's crazy. So have you do you have a favorite driver?
I do. I like two drivers in the spirit of my father and my grandfather because racing was our thing and they both passed. I like my dad's old favorite driver, Kyle Larson. Um, he's also got the team from my old favorite driver, Jimmy Johnson, after
Mm,
he retired. So that's his whole race team. And then Chase Elliott was my granddad's favorite and my dad's favorite later on. So I like both of them.
okay. Hell
Really good
yeah.
drivers.
Yeah. I saw you had the infamous number 3 on one of
Yep.
your posts, and then Jeff Gordon's car, like a drawing. I wonder, did you draw that?
I do draw some. I
Okay.
don't, with everything that I do, I don't have near the time for it. But as a child, I drew a lot of racing stuff. I did my own designs. Actually, funny thing to that, in 2007, I did a bunch of original hand-drawn designs, and one of them was Jimmy Johnson's 48 car. And my original design, I don't know when, I think I sent it to uh, his fan magazine because they had drawing contests.
Yeah.
That thing showed up in 2010 on the side of the race car with very minimal changes, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm never gonna get that one back."
Oh my God, that's wild, bro.
It was the coolest, unofficial thing that I've ever seen. My dad, it was before the season started, and my dad said, "Look at Jimmy Johnson's new car, and you I was upstairs and digging through the drawers of my bedroom in an instant trying to find that drawing. I was like, "You mean this one?"
Oh shit, dude, that's crazy.
So I'm gonna get him to sign it one day. That's a dream of mine. I just got to get to one of the tracks where he's at. But
Yeah.
he's an indie now, and he signs everything, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I'd love to get the chance to tell him the story and be like, "Hey, this is
Right.
wild."
That would be cool, man. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's funny. Earlier that you said talking about doing all kinds of things. Back before I started the aircraft mechanicking thing, I was in school at that point, so people would ask me, "What do you do?" And I'd turn around and I'd be like, "What don't I do?" I
Yeah.
was At that point in time, I was working on radios in the army, studying IT, working on cars full time. I was dabbling in acting. I was doing some sports writing for my buddy for his like kind of like blogging weekly for his NASCAR website.
Oh
It's
shit.
like I do everything at this
That
point.
is cool, man.
And then
Yeah.
airsoft was the hobby, and it was just you know all the more the merrier. I was learning all kinds of things, doing all kinds of things.
Yeah. Dude, that's cool though. It's having a broad background like that is it's a good experience. I remember reading a book years and years ago about how this it was a business book, but people were always like, "Oh, you want to live long, right? Like you want to live till you're 100 or whatever, you know. I want to live a long, healthy life." And he was like, "It's not how long you live; it's how broad your life is, you know."
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so like, how much stuff can you pack into your life? Because you don't know when you're gonna go, you know.
Oh,
And
for sure.
yeah, so how many people's lives can you change, or impact, or they can impact yours. That's usually what happens. And
That
yeah,
that and that's actually one of my favorite things. So my dad taught me a lot about that. My dad was actually he was always frustrated because his parents, they only lived in their early to mid 60s, I think.
mm,
He was always so mad that they, got taken from him so young and didn't get to see, his children and all that.
right.
And the irony of it all is he passed at 56.
Oh shit.
So
Sorry to hear
that's
that, man. Yeah.
that's my thing is, for one, like you said, you don't know how long you have.
Yep.
And the second thing to that is after his passing, we spoke to so many people that he worked with, and he was an incredible impact to everybody. I mean, listening to them talk when they had a rough day, or um, just making everybody laugh, helping people with stuff that they didn't know how to do that he did. And
Mm-hmm.
he actually took some dude that got injured. They had him ambulance to the hospital, but he couldn't get home. He actually had my mom bring the van up to work, which had one of those seats that drops down to the ground, like the handicap seats.
Yeah.
And he took this dude home all the way home from work, and he's like, dude, don't worry about it. I got your back. So I mean, that's the
Wow.
kind of thing that I like to try to channel into people. I try to not be, not get mad about so many things because life's short. And I think my greatest grounds that I've been able to do that with is through airsoft, because
Mm-hmm.
my ultimate favorite thing is, like, not even always kids, but to me, it always makes me smile when it's kids and they walk up to you and like, whoa, what is that thing that you've got? Or how long have you been playing? Or look at your kit and all that. Or they ask you questions, like, how do you get over being afraid of being hit? Or how do you get better at this? And, how do you get to where you can be on YouTube or have all these
Yeah.
followers on Instagram or whatever? I love that because I can just sit there and go on and on with people because I want to make a positive impact, and
Right.
I mean, that goes along with the whole Captain America thing. I don't like people kicking people around, and I want to make a positive impact on people the best I can. And Instagram's definitely a good platform for that for the most part, to where, you know, you got people, and Honey Badger's a lot better at it than I am. I mean, he interacts with so many people, it's incredible. Like
He does, man.
I talked to this girl in the UK we were talking about, because I'm dying to go play over there at that field that they play at in
Okay, which
England,
one?
because it's called Dirty Dogs. So
Dirty
many
Dog.
people that I know
Yeah.
of play there,
Yep.
and it's like they're all friendly and they all get along, and it looks like a big family. And I said, I just once I want to go over there and play, you know.
Yeah.
And she goes, we were talking about, she shared something that Unicorn Leah posted, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was there at that event." And she goes, "Oh, so was Honey Badger. He seems like he talks about you a lot. He seems like y'all, you know, he really likes you. He talks about you and all that." I was like,
Yeah.
"Man, I love to hear that from people. You know, there's people all over that I actually have regular conversations with, and am able to share." You know, different aspects of things with, you know, you get a feel for what the sport is in other areas, you know, like England.
Yeah.
And it's a real blessing when people out there like Honey Badger, and I'm trying to be better at it, you know, just get along with everybody and just try to, you know, pour positivity into people. You know, even if you don't get to play all the time, you know, you can give your insight to things, you know, you can hype people up on social media, you know, because I remember when I was trying to, you know, scrub for every follower I could get, you know, because I mean, who doesn't
Yeah.
want to be well known in their hobby? Airsoft's
Sure.
definitely one of those, you know. Mad respect to Jet Desert Fox, you know, I met him last weekend, and
Oh, nice.
I celebrities aren't a big deal to me most of the time, you know, especially like, you know, acting celebrities and all that, and a lot of
Right.
sports people, you know, they seem like they just get a big head about themselves. But and I hadn't thought anything about the people that were going to be there. You know, I'd heard of them, but when I was standing in the line waiting for High Ground to open, there was a guy behind me with his son, and he said they went out to California to play. And Jet actually, they said that they were going to a different field the next day,
Yeah.
or later that day. And Jet actually, he's like, they met Jet, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there and play alongside y'all. And he had to go home and get some stuff done or whatever, and something came up. So Jet actually called the field and sent his regards to them specifically and all that.
Oh,
And
wow.
he just kept telling stories about how great he was. I want to meet this dude now because he sounds like he's
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. And I actually got to speak with him, got a picture with him and all that. And I was like, "Hey, I want to play alongside you if you're going to get back on the field after the Q and A." And he's like, "Yeah." And some ridiculous issues with their chrono actually kept me from getting back on the field, even with an HPA rig. And
Mm.
I've emailed them about that. It was a fiasco, but thankfully, you know, he was really cool about it. He's like, "Yeah, they changed it on us this morning. We had to tech on our guns to fix everything too, and it's not really
Oh, wow.
fair." He said, "But you know, he said we can meet up at another event." And he actually commented when I shared the photo of the two of us the other day. He's like, "Yeah, I look forward to playing alongside you one day." So I mean, that means a lot that somebody that's, you know, that big, you know, that has that many followers, and I mean, he's got to be busy all the time. Just takes time to, you know, say something to somebody
Right.
like that. So
That's
it's just,
what I've noticed is especially in airsoft. I guess maybe I'm a little, I don't know other venues. I know the shooting community, the real steel community. I follow a
yeah,
lot of them as well, um, which I know a lot of airsofters do. But the airsoft community is uh, is just like that, man. C7 Viper, people that have started from nothing, anyone that started a YouTube channel, if they didn't have a prior background in, where they were famous in something else, and they started at zero, like everyone does, and started, Instagram as well, and started building that, uh, and then they're very, very popular, like those guys you're talking about, C7 Viper, Airsoft Alphonse, Navrich, Swamp Sniper. Everyone I've seen, through their videos and through seeing like comments and interactions with other people, they're all just like what you said. They're all very, very welcoming and they're kind, and honorable and respectful. So, and airsoft is a game of honor, and that's I think a lot of that spills over into, or I think really they're just like that, and that's why one of the reasons they're attracted to airsoft is because other people are like that as well that are in airsoft. You know what I mean? So they're and getting 500,000 subscribers on YouTube doesn't make them an asshole, so yeah, it's pretty cool. And speaking of that, you're a veteran. Um, this this whole sport, I am just recently, honestly, in the last 8 months, 6 months, finding out how important it is to a lot of veterans with PTSD. They use airsoft as kind of like a therapy. Like it's the best thing. They didn't choose that as a therapy. They just they had to go. Some of the guys I've talked with that have been in combat and stuff, they've had to go through this counseling, and they were forced to, like in the military, and then they didn't. It didn't really, like, it kind of made it worse. It didn't really help them the way it was supposed to. Not anyone's fault or nothing, not the military's program fault or whatever. Just they found this home in airsoft where they get the camaraderie back that they had in the military. They get the teams. They get now they got hangout buddies. Now they got people that they're close with off the field as well. And like I said, all these people, majority of people in airsoft are respectful, honorable, kind, helpful. And man, what a great combination of things when you are trying to work through some mental issues, and emotional issues.
I think something else that plays in there, especially, see, I've never seen any type of combat. I actually never deployed. Um, Mad respect for everybody who did,
Yeah, I didn't either.
because
Yeah.
I worked for a special unit, so it was going to be really something really interesting here, chemical, biological, nuclear, something like that, if we got sent. But um,
Oh, you were
I
on
have a
the
real respect for
NBC?
those guys. What's
You were
that?
on the you were on the chemical warfare team?
Yeah, we were a battalion level chemical unit, and most of the time I was there, we had a mission for in-country response to incidents or attacks.
Okay.
That's what we trained for.
I
We
did
were
when I was in Japan, I did the same. I was on the same team. Okay.
really,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was an exciting thing, and to be the brain unit of everybody that we were supporting underneath us. It was like more of an attachment to FEMA, in a response, but we were supporting, medics, decontamination, search and rescue, engineers, all that cool stuff. And it was something incredible to see, just how everybody jumps in, does their job, and just runs, even just during a 2 week time, runs everything the way it needs to be run, to where if something really did happen here, God forbid, we know we're getting taken care of. But
Right.
as you were saying about combat, I think something another way I see that is, I know just in general, veterans coming off of active duty, they have a hard transition, but I feel like
Hmm.
if that's something that you're accustomed to, the combat side, you're going to want something that you can transition into, because obviously, you can't just, go back to being in combat if you're out.
Right.
Um, but that gives you that outlet, and that gives you a place to, keep honing your skills. Some people do the real serious mil sims where it's extremely tactical like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great thing for people who come out of the military to be able to, and people still in, to be able to do some of the stuff that they did while they were in on a level where they're not risking their life anymore. And I have a lot of respect for those guys that are able to come to terms with the things that they saw over there and be able to be able to channel that in, because like you said, counseling is not for everybody. I mean, my experience with military counseling was bad. But
Yeah, it's
I'm
such a large machine. It's like this giant ship. It's very hard to, make a quick turn. So
yeah.
they're still using, very antiquated, like,
Oh yeah.
techniques that have not that it still that still don't work. They didn't work back in the 50s. They still don't work now. And
Ev-
yeah,
Everything in the military is antiquated.
no shit.
I They taught us in my radio training. They taught us a little bit of computer stuff because we're supposed to be 25 uniform was my code, which is signal support systems. So we're
Yeah.
supposed to be radio techs, but they call it 25 universals. So we're supposed to know both sides of it. And they taught us how to re-image a Windows XP computer. And mind you, this was 2014. I'm like, nobody uses this anymore. And then when I
Oh
got
my
out and got
God.
into things, I was like, oh no, we do still use this. And
Oh my
just
God.
everything. I mean, the Humvees from the 80s, the M16 A2s. I was just like, oh no,
Hey now. Hey
this is
now.
old.
M16A2s, bro. That's what I trained on. Those are the shit for us.
Yeah, I mean, they keep kicking, but I just, we had the A4s in basic, and I was just like,
Yeah.
we went back to these. But I mean, when you're a battalion level chemical unit, that's the kind of stuff that you get. I mean,
Oh,
I was
that's
surprised that we
funny.
had a Mark 19. That was the coolest thing for me. We
Oh
didn't get to
shit.
fire it, but that was cool. I was like,
I got to
okay, well, we
fire
have
that.
one. You did?
Can you believe that came out? I'm not sure when it was actually released, but as far as for large troops like ours, because we got to fire it when I was at MCT. So for the Marine Corps, you go, and I think it's still the same, but you go to 3 months of boot camp, and then you're done with boot camp, and then you go to MCT. So boot camp, and a lot of people don't know this about the Marines, we actually get less tactical training and hands-on, uh, well, we get a lot of we get 30 days in boot camp with our rifle, but and snapping in and firing downrange, target shooting. So uh, we do that, but as far as tactics, maneuvers and tactics, Marines get less time with that than like the Army, or I'm not sure about the Navy and Air Force, but definitely less than the Army in boot camp. But then we
Yeah.
have 30 days Marine combat training, MCT, that's after boot camp. So we go boot camp, then you graduate, and then you go on leave for 7 to 10 days, and then you report to well, when I was in, it was I think it's still over here, Camp Geiger, California, or North Carolina, uh, which is on Lejeune. We go there for 30 days. So while we were there, we got to use the Mark 19, and this thing was fucking awesome. That and the 50 cal, the M2, the Deuce, were everyone's favorite thing to shoot. And this Mark 19 we called the Thumper. And I was actually really surprised for, all these platoons coming through. And this thing was a new, they were talking about it. This is 1990. So I graduated boot camp January 5th of 1990. And so I was at MCT, the last part of January and part of February. And we got to fire this thing. They were talking like it had just come out, like it was a new weapon. And we couldn't, it blew our minds that there was a belt fed, chain fed uh, grenade launcher. Like, what? This is crazy. And we called it Thumper. This thing is just lobbing these things. We got to shoot the HE grenades on this field. The thing launches fucking far as shit. But there's this old beat up Humvee out there, and the old World War II Army Jeep. Those old green ones you see in the old movies. that was out there. You couldn't tell what the hell it was because the tires are blowing off. The things all, tore up. But it was really fun to shoot. So definitely.
I'm so jealous that the we lightly, because I was support. I went through bending for basic, which is where the infantry goes, but because I was support, it was light with
Yeah.
everything that we did. I mean, we got to fire a little bit of the machine guns. The underbarrel grenade launchers were paint rounds, I think.
Okay.
And everything was just to check a box, it seemed. So it was a little bit cheesy in some ways, but I mean, I got to throw a couple hand grenades. I got to fire some bell-fed machine guns, so it was fun.
Yeah.
But I got to lay hands on the deuce later. We were running a gunnery because we weren't doing any chemical related stuff that year. So we ran a gunnery, and I said, I don't care which, we were supporting it, so we weren't doing it. I said, I don't care what you guys have to do. I said, put me out there on the gun. I want to shoot it. And I was actually, whatever the qualification was, I think I hit 8 out of 11, and 7 out of 11 targets was the
Nice.
qualification.
Yeah.
So they're like, wow, you weren't even supposed to be out here, and you're one of the only like couple that qualified on it. I was like, cool.
Oh,
I
that's
couldn't see the
cool.
far targets
Hell yeah, man.
because I think the farthest target on that course is 0.93 of a mile, and I'm like, I can't even see it, but I'll try.
Jesus. Yeah, right? Yeah, that
But
little speck out there. Go ahead. Shoot.
that little teeny tiny white thing, I'm like, you guys think my eyesight's a lot better than it is.
Oh man, that's funny. Well, speaking of that, I'm not trying to get off, change the topic, but I'm sitting here. I keep looking at your Instagram page that I have pulled up, and I saw one of your short videos you posted on there. You actually are shooting through a scope with a sniper. I don't know which gun it is. An airsoft gun at a light bulb, and this thing's
Yes,
tiny. Um, and you broke the light bulb. I don't
yes.
think. I think there was one other picture of the broken light bulb, but I guess I think that's where I found your buddy Jason. Or no, was it Jason that was supposed to be filming and he didn't film it?
We had so many tries at that, and then he turned around to answer a text message or something. I'm like, "Yep, I shot it out," and he's like, "What?"
Oh
It's
shit!
it's actually, I'm trying to point at it. I got a really
Yeah.
tiny screen. It's that top one up there.
Okay.
EMG made it. They call it the Barrett Fieldcraft,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
and it is a absolute beast out of the box. It's on point twos. It's mid to upper 500 FPS,
Oh my God, that's awesome.
and it basically, if you want to buy a rifle and you don't know anything about doing bolt rifles and you don't want to upgrade everything, it's got a zero trigger in it. It's got a beefy spring. It's got a really cool fluted bolt, and it is an absolute beast. And that's what I was making those shots with. And that big scope on there, which is how I saw it
Hmm.
that far out, is
Yeah.
actually they Evike sells it with it. I bought mine from Airsoft Junkies, which is my favorite
Yeah.
store. They're actually here. I've known those guys since 2012, 2013. Sam, the guy that runs the place,
Okay.
they are incredible techs, especially with HPA. They know all kinds of stuff. I was waiting so long for that to get restocked in that color. And they told me, oh, it's going to be September or something like that. And I happened to come across Junkies. They said, oh, yeah, we got one here in stock. So I drove through the mad, crazy Atlanta traffic to go up there and get it. And that thing has been nothing but impressive. I mean, I, I haven't chronoed it, but it makes stupid, crazy shots on point .4 BBs.
Oh
So that's
wow.
about all I use. And I mean, you can upgrade it further if you want to. You can throw a beefier spring in and it'll take it. So
Oh my
I don't
God.
I don't know how far I want to go with it, but actually, so the light bulb shot wasn't even the craziest. The broken light bulb shot was not even the
Yeah.
craziest shot. I've actually done that twice. Um, but it's like 75, 80 feet out, and it's actually down and to the right. Well, I put a plastic light bulb in there later on. I didn't know if I'd break it or not.
Yeah.
One of those LED ones.
Right.
So I had hit it a couple times. I'm out here doing this by myself. It was my first test with all three cameras running. So I have normally on the field, I have it on my helmet, and then I
Hmm.
have for the sniper, I have the one facing back at me on the bolt side, which
Right.
is actually mounted up there right now.
Yep.
And the other one, oh, the scope cam. So the scope cam sits up on top.
Right.
And I actually had the camera that was on my helmet down there where you can't see it. It's covered up with leaves on the front side, right on the target. So I shoot this thing, and it was one of the last shots I took at it. I shoot it, 75, 80 feet out. I'm shooting way down and to the right at a light bulb, a curved object, and I sent the round back and almost hit myself with it. So to
Holy
me,
shit.
that's even cooler than, breaking a light bulb because that thing took a 1 in a trillion trajectory back and hit the house back over my shoulder.
Oh
Like,
my
there's no
God.
way.
Like it had to hit this perfectly, the perfect spot to come straight back
Yes, it was
on a curved
incredible. I was like,
object.
what was that?
And not only that, but it had to be traveling fast enough to
Oh, yeah.
stop and bounce back off of this object and fly all the way back. Of course, the plastic part could have flexed and kind of acted like a you know trampoline to it, I guess. But still, that thing,
It was
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah, that is very cool. You'll
I
shoot your
haven't
eye out, kid.
I haven't made any super cool shots with it on field yet. I've had real limited time with it so far.
Yeah,
I play a lot with the 417 that's underneath it.
that
I
looks
mean,
badass, bro.
that thing is incredible. I put a Wolverine Reaper in it, which is ideal for the 417 if you don't want to buy the extra stuff that Polar Star sells, trigger boards and all that.
So
The
explain. I don't know what a Reaper is.
the Reaper is electromechanical, so the only thing you're powering with a battery is the solenoid.
Mm,
So you wire the solenoid straight to the trigger contacts. So on the 417, the trigger box is external to the gearbox. So that's absolutely perfect for the 417. So all I had to do was drill a little extra hole, run the wires out to the trigger contacts. So now the battery applies power to that solenoid. So now, just like with the AEG, every time the trigger puts the trigger shuttle into the trigger contacts, it
mm-hmm.
fires.
So it's a
And it
mechanical trigger. So it
yes,
feels like a real steel gun, pretty much. And then yeah,
and it is blasphemously quiet with no assistance.
yeah.
I did not have to put a foam suppressor on it or anything. It is so quiet. Like I can sit 50, 60 feet out from people on the field, and until they can actually see me, they don't know where I'm shooting them from.
That's awesome.
And it's semi only, but it allows for some really fast trigger response, and that's just easily my favorite gun
I think
that I've
this
ever
is the
owned.
same. I think this is the same setup that one of the viewers from our channel, he's actually been in a couple videos of ours. He's local to us. He lives, 20, 30 minutes away. And Todd, he's been on a couple videos. Well, the first video he did with us was he built a Kythera build or whatever, and it had a mechanical trigger in there as well. It was semi only,
Yep.
or yeah, it was semi only. And so, but it felt really good, and it was super quiet, like what you're saying. So I'm not sure what setup he had in there. What he has a whole list. He actually on the video he went through. He had a whole sheet of paper written out. Number one, number two, all these parts listed out, so that if somebody wanted to build that, they could.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm new. I could never tack on electric guns. I could put all the parts back in exactly the right place and they wouldn't work right. So I got frustrated with that. I always had somebody that would do it for me. But HPA,
What
not
makes
only
me a
does
little
it,
concerned that you're working on aircraft now? Come on.
well, it's the teeny tiny little parts, and I think the
Yeah.
shimming is what always got me. Now with VFC, they have their
Gotcha.
self shimming gears, and that makes it a lot easier. But to me, you take um, you take this engine and you're able to drop it into the existing gearbox, and then from that point, basically all you're upgrading is the hop up and the inner barrel. So you
Mm,
can take it, you can flat hop it, R hop it, whatever, on a tight bore barrel, and make it shoot lasers, across the map. And it's like having a cheat code. And I mean, you can dial it to whatever you want to dial it to for the field limits for whatever BB. I've got a chrono, so I can take on new BB weights and dial the regulator to whatever meets my field limits.
Right.
And to me, for a designated marksman rifle, HPA is the only way to go. And I play mostly outdoors, so that's what I've got the Scar up there. I've got the 417. I've actually got a Masada that I'm building. I haven't done it yet, but that's the
Nice.
Kythera. That's going to be the Kythera build. But all those are going to be, the semi-only. I like semi-only stuff. I don't care for full auto.
Yeah.
Even my M27 that's got an Inferno in it is programmed to semi-only right now because I don't like full auto. I don't play full auto matches. It's gotten bad with the HPA stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, I want to be able to walk up and I can pull the trigger as many times as I can, on a normal trigger pull, and to me
Right.
that's enough. If you're not hitting somebody at that point, it's rough.
Yeah.
But
Right.
to me, that's the only way to build a DMR because with an AEG, you have to upgrade so many different parts. You have to do, the angle of engagement on the piston to make sure it doesn't shred itself apart. Heavier
Hmm.
springs put tension on everything. Then you got to worry about the cylinder to inner barrel ratio to where you start losing velocity at some point. With the air, you don't have to worry about that. The longer
Yeah.
barrel, the better at that point. It's like certain aspects are like a firearm. The longer barrel, the better, and you can actually, all the noise comes out of the barrel, so you can actually silence it with the foam suppressors to where, you can sneak up on people with your HPA gun and nobody's going to hear it coming.
Right.
So
Yeah. Good luck.
HPA to
Good
me
luck with
is
a
good.
AEG doing that.
Oh yeah, because it's all in the body. Now, my caveat to that I found out recently is Redline is different with their Milsim engine. It's entirely pneumatic,
Hmm.
and the nozzle has to reset after every trigger pull. So when you pull the trigger, it's silenced. When the nozzle resets, it's really loud because it comes through the side of the gun. And I was like, well, this
Oh.
is kind of disappointing, but
Yeah.
I love their products though. I have in my guns right now, I have three of the N7 Milsim pneumatic engines. I have one of the Redline FCU engines and a 416. I have a Wolverine Inferno, which it's got a Bluetooth controller in it, so I can actually take a cell phone and change the dwell and the rate of fire and how many
Jeez.
rounds I want to fire per shot and all that. And
Damn.
then what else do I have? I have the Kythera that I haven't put in yet, and then I have the Reaper that's in that other one. So I've got a the Kythera is my first Polar Star product. I'm excited to see what it does, but most of their stuff is just too expensive for my liking.
I hear you, man.
When I can buy
Now,
two of the pneumatics for the same price as one of their electronic engines, and I don't even want full auto, it's a no-brainer to me.
oh, right. That makes sense. Now so why did you get the micro gun? You told me you found it fairly cheap, right?
No, no, no. So the microgun, Evike had these for the event. They had these goodie
Oh,
bag,
for the
uh,
event. That's right. You got it from
these
that.
stacks, and they had golden
Okay.
tickets. Like Charlie and the
That's right.
Chocolate Factory. They just
Yes.
stuffed them in all the
That's
sacks.
right. Well, that was the first thing I noticed when your screen came up when we first started talking, and I saw it there because I want one. And so, because I eventually, when I go to play my first game, maybe not the first game, it doesn't have to be, but I do at some point, I want to do the Juggernaut roll. I want to gear
Yes.
up with everything, and I want one of those. And I just, just full on, just a micro gun, blah, just, A10 Warthog, everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
So I've actually learned a few things about them since I got this the other day.
Okay.
Um, one I was told by somebody else because I was like, oh, it's the electric one and not the HPA one. I would have rather, the HPA one. Somebody told me that they're running out of air before they run out of BBs, so that's probably not a good
Uh,
route to go.
right.
Um, this one holds 2,000 to 2,200 BBs. They load into a hopper in between the four barrels.
Hmm.
Um, it takes standard AEG barrels, and there's individual hop-ups for all of them. I don't know how you dial 4 barrels in that are firing that
Whew.
fast, but
Right.
um, the biggest thing I learned, and you're going to laugh at me for this, the biggest thing I learned was that when the instructions tell you to do something, you do it. So the electric version,
We're guys. We
it
don't do that, okay? The instructions go in the freaking trash. Everyone listening, don't listen to this dude right now, okay? He already
had,
knows because he didn't follow the instructions because we're used to throwing that shit in the trash. We don't need that shit. We know how to figure it out, bro.
being it was $1,000 product, I wanted to be careful.
No
So
shit.
in there's a tube that the batteries go in. It's a pretty big tube, and it said, okay, it's two T. It takes 2 batteries,
Yeah,
so it's 2 T connector batteries, and you need 11.1 lipos.
gotcha.
And I was like, I read it, and I was intending to do what it said, and in my not thinking, I ended up grabbing both of my batteries that were T connectors. One of them is not an 11.1. And I learned that you have to follow directions because after running all the way through the test, and I have to isolate this on the video and put it on Instagram because everybody needs to see this because I got it on video. So right at the end of the test, I started hearing a noise. I was like, it's not right. So I look at the tube and I see smoke. I was like, all right, that's
Oh,
really not good. So I go and spin the back of the tube off really quick and yank the end of the batteries out. And right at the time that I yanked them out and they both dropped side by side, the 7.4 lipo that I didn't realize that I had was the 7.4 that I grabbed,
yeah.
both parts of the batteries burst into flames.
Holy shit.
So that is why you follow the directions when you have very weird guns.
You had good intentions. You planned
Yeah.
on following those instructions. You just didn't double check what you didn't look to see what you were putting in there. Okay.
I mean, I hated that battery anyway, but still, it was not a good thing.
See, subconsciously, your inner self, that's what it was. That's what it was, okay? Your
I
inner self was like, fuck this battery. I'm going to put it in here and blow it up.
I bought that battery for a specific gun, and I will tell anybody watching here and now, there's a very cool looking gun out there and a very cool concept gun out there, the Aries Scar Sc. It's a little baby Scar with
Mm,
the stock that pushes all the way in. It's a PDW.
yeah,
And for a couple years, I've been wanting them to build a airsoft version of that gun, and I was not happy that it was Aries because there's not a lot you can do to upgrade them. It's all proprietary, and you can't
gotcha.
HPA them without specific Polar Star stuff. So I
Mm,
was like, oh, we'll give this one a try. I've always wanted it. That gun is an ever-living nightmare out of the box. Now, I've been having bad luck with stuff from Evike lately with flipping it over brand new and not seeing gearbox seal stickers on them, which
gotcha.
makes you wonder where it's been.
Right.
But so that was one of those guns, but I was getting every 2 or 3 shots or so, I was getting it make a real funky sound in the gearbox and drop them way short or
Mm,
double fire or whatever else. And I'm like, okay, this
yeah.
needs to go back. And it's also a 3 piece hop up, which has this very long range of adjustment for the top part to make sure it hits the right spot on the bottom one.
Oh, wow.
And then the battery space is up in the very top, right
Oh,
under the rail. And you can actually, it will barely fit a teeny tiny lipo in there.
yeah.
You lock the stock back in place, and then you can't adjust the hop up with the battery in because it won't let the rail pull back, or it won't let the bolt pull back for you to see the hop up. So I'm just like,
Oh, Lord.
I'm sending this back. So I sent it back.
Who designed this?
The EMG has some claim to it too, which is Evike's group of
Right.
manufacturers. So I asked the guy when we were at the table the other day, I said, "Do you have any problems out of these?" And of course he's like, "No, we don't hardly have any of these sent back." And I was like, "Okay,
Oh,
then
come on.
you're paid to say that."
I was gonna say, okay, you just learned that script this morning on the way here, okay? Because I knew
I
they were gonna get that question.
So for anybody who wants to know, my go-to for starter guns all day long, unquestioned, is G&G. If you want a cheap
Hmm.
starter gun, you go get a G&G combat machine, and it will not die. I bought mine as a rental gun. It was a
Yeah.
heavily used rental gun in 2012. It's still going.
That's crazy, bro.
And then I can also say for G&G's high-end stuff is also legendary. Their top tech line, any of their full metal stuff. I mean, I've got two of the 308s up there on the wall because I'm obsessed with 308 stuff. I'm obsessed with, unique stuff and just stuff that you don't see every day.
Yeah.
And so the 308 was a no-brainer for me. I saw Airsoft GI build a short barrel of it, and it was way too expensive for my taste, so I built it. I built my own for $200 cheaper.
Nice.
And that's the bottom one right here,
Okay.
and I've absolutely loved that thing ever since.
Yeah.
And then the bottom one on this side is another one that I built a shorter barrel of, and I've actually taken them both over to HPA. But out of the box, those things have so many cool features to them. It's like knows when the magazine's empty, it'll send a thing up to a sensor where it'll stop firing. It knows when the magazine's in. It won't dry fire without the magazine in. It's got the
What?
MOSFET in it. You can
Damn.
make it burst out of the box with the MOSFET. It is
Right.
cool stuff. So G and G always has a place in my heart, and then VFC is my other go-to. VFC makes incredible guns, and I used to be an HK snob, and now I guess I'm an HK snob again because I have a 416, a 417, and M27. I mean, out of the box, all those have Avalon gearboxes in them, and I it makes me cry to gut an Avalon gearbox to put other stuff in it. So I try to get extra gearbox shells if I take it HPA. You can slap an Avalon gearbox in anything that'll hold it, and it makes it incredible
Yeah.
just from nothing.
Hmm.
So I have like the VFC Virgo, which is it's basically a 416, the little baby 416 without being 416 because they don't make those anymore.
Huh.
So it's like the little PDW thing. I've got
Yeah.
their, all their HK stuff. I mean, the Scar up there, it's all excellent stuff. So anybody
That's
out
good to
there that
know.
wants to buy, straight off the shelf, this thing's amazing. It's VFC. If you want to go starter and, you know, never tear it up, it's G&G all day long.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because and I'm sure you've experienced this with how many years you've been into airsoft. The most common question we get, like on our Discord and a lot of comments on videos and stuff, are newer players, young teenagers just wanting to get into the sport, or older teenager getting into the sport. Uh, what's a good starter setup? What's a good starter gun? Um, something that I don't have to spend $500 on.
Oh, yeah.
That what can I start with? So, you know, doing saying that is really helpful because so many people ask.
Lancer and Vulcan both have entry level guns now too.
Right.
And I've never cared for either one of them just because all they've done is look at what everybody else has made and rip it off.
Mm,
Sometimes that's good. Like Vulcan sells cheap short dot sights, which, fun fact, um, I can't see very well out of my right eye, so if I actually want to look down the sights, I have to use my left. So most of the time, I'm not using my sights anyway. They're just there to look cool.
right.
So, I buy my red dots off of Wish, and if there's somewhere else that I can get a sight for cheaper than it normally would be, I'll do it. So Vulcan's a good go-to for stuff like that because they're gonna sell the same product for cheaper. But
Yeah.
when it comes to guns, I don't mess around with that because you don't know if they rip those off right, and you want that to be right.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, speaking of the sights, those red dots or little scopes and stuff, the podcast I did with oh, they're gonna kill me if they hear this. Um, it was a couple, and boyfriend girlfriend, and the guy started, or they both started this website called milsimfinder.com. Okay.
Yeah.
uh, During that podcast, he actually talked about kind of the same thing, where Uh, he went expensive. If he's going to put money into it, he put it into his gun. The scope, he didn't really, it was no big deal. So he actually talked about how, and he showed it on camera, the brand, and it's really affordable, like a lot cheaper than most other, red dots and those kind of things. So if you want to check that out, I'll look through there and see, and if I have a chance this weekend, I'll see what that was and send it
Okay.
to you. You might have heard about, heard of the brand already.
That's 100% a thing that I'll advocate, and I tell, the guys that I play airsoft with are relatively new, they're getting into a lot of their stuff.
Yeah,
And that's what I tell everybody who asks. I'm like, look, the sight, they can get shot out.
yeah,
You're not using, you can watch a BB fly. You're not using them most of the time anyway, unless you're sniping. And, don't spend an arm and a leg on it because it's not worth it when you can go put that money into actual, internal upgrades to make your gun shoot farther and all that other stuff, or,
right,
bigger, better gun. And that's the way I see it. I mean, I'm the same way with like, batteries. I don't use a lot of batteries anymore with the HPA stuff, but I mean
right,
batteries, you know, stuff that's basically consumable. I'm like, it is what it is. You get
right,
the cheaper brand. Battery is a battery is a battery. As long as it's the shape that you needed and the output that you need, you're good.
right,
You know, foregrips are the same way. I only use one type of foregrip on every gun because it's the only one I like. It's the RVG, the Magpul RVG style. But
oh
so
yeah,
many people have those ripped off now. I have
yep,
a guy on Hop Up that I buy some of that stuff from, where he's gotten it straight from the distributors, overseas or whatever,
yeah,
and sells them for a lot cheaper. Or Amazon, there's people that do that. I will
yeah,
never pay full price for a foregrip,
right.
um, bipod sights, anything like that. There's no point to it. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's one of the guys on our Discord, and actually he's been a follower on our channel for a while. Van Alex. If you look him up on Instagram, Van Alex Airsoft. I did a podcast with him a couple days ago, but I've known him for a couple years, and through our channel. But he does 3D printing. He has, I don't know, 3 or 4 3D printing machines, and he does the Magpul foregrips identical.
yep.
Obviously not without the marks on it, but the and it still is just as sturdy or whatever. And he 3D prints them. They're very cheap to print, and they work just as well.
See, I haven't had anybody close to me that's done that, but I'll 100% give that caveat to it too. If you can support somebody like that that's making it, that's
Right,
100 times better than, somebody, buying it off the distributor in China or whatever else. If you can
right,
support somebody who's making it, that's an incredible thing. And there's guys out there that are incredibly skilled at making, rare parts that you can't find, or new and interesting items.
right,
It's the world is their oyster at that point with some of those 3D printing machines. It's incredible what they can do.
right.
I've always wanted to get into that. I've just got my hands in so many. I mean, it's like getting into YouTube. I
Oh,
got my hands in so many things. I got
I
so
was
much
gonna
video
ask you about
footage.
where's your YouTube channel now? Come on, you're jamming on your Instagram, bro.
It's been in the works, and what I did is I made the mistake of getting so much video footage at one time
Yeah,
and just starting back into editing. I was just like, this is all going to take so much. So I think I edited a little bit of it
yeah,
to the point where I edited the specific segments that I wanted together, but I didn't put like the little hit marker things and all that in there
right,
for my gameplay. I've intended to do reviews. I mean, I have all these guns from Box of Awesomeness that I just wanted to do reviews on,
right. Yeah,
and
a
it's
hundred
just
and
so
five.
much.
Okay.
So much. It's daunting to me, because not because it's difficult, but it's because I want to do it right and do it well.
Yeah.
So I've actually been talking to Jason. We actually had that conversation. We talked for a long time yesterday about him. He's studied videography at some point,
Okay.
and I'm like, look, dude, you like to make money. I'm not near as good at editing these things as you are. Let's work together. We both get exposure, the team gets exposure, all that good stuff, and that way, because there's so many people out there that do gameplay footage and all that other stuff that
Mm-hmm.
you have to stand out and you have to. That's my biggest thing is I want to be good at it.
Yeah.
And just stepping into it, I mean, there's my first edit was there's a short video that I put up on Instagram of where I killed like 10 people in a row or something like that in an event that I was at.
Yeah.
And that from remembering that happening during the day, I was like, okay, that's 100% going to be the very first thing that I lay hands on to edit. But, I mean, it still needs work. Um, some of the time that I had little hit markers and all that stuff on the screen was too short and some other stuff. But I mean, it was it was fairly decent for stepping into it. But I also want to have like a run into the video for every video, like an intro or whatever for me, and
Yeah.
some of that stuff's just not as much my talent, so I'm working with different people on, finding a professional outlet to with my friends, support my friends and support their skills.
Yeah.
My girlfriend even I've been talking about, I was like, look, if I keep getting bigger at this, you know, getting a bigger scope of things. I said, I want patches. And I said, I can draw, but I
Mm-hmm.
said, I said, if you can draw, I want it to be something that you've done, that goes, that comes from both of us. And I think she likes it a lot that I get her involved in things because she won't play. I keep I took her to high ground and I was like, look, there's a really cool EMG F1, this like Tiffany blue skeletonized M4. I said, I'll buy you
Oh
that. Let's play,
shit. Yeah,
She
yeah.
just, but she's so great. She will go out there and get hit all over taking incredible pictures. All my action photos are hers that she takes with
Oh wow.
my granddad's old camera,
Yep.
one of the DSLR cameras. And she will just get in there and she'll be like, yeah, this doesn't hurt. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, cool, then suit up and let's play.
Oh shit.
But
That's
she's so
wild.
supportive. She goes out there and she sits in the heat with all of us and hangs out with all of us and he drives 12 hours to Evite, whatever, because
Dude,
she loves seeing me do,
that's
you
awesome.
know, something that I like doing and she
Right.
just supports me. And I'll tell you the biggest thing she did for me was when I was my first build, since I've been playing again, which is since April. My first build was the putting the Reaper in that 417,
Yeah.
and I may be the son of an avionics technician, but and a former auto mechanic and a current aircraft mechanic for engines, but I can't solder to save my life, and so that's why auto shops always have an electrical guy because soldering sucks.
Yeah,
But
soldiering's hard. Yep.
so for the Reaper, you have to solder it to the trigger contacts. I'm like, oh, okay, no big deal, whatever. That
Yeah.
is a teeny tiny piece of metal on
Yep.
that gun, and there's two of them. So I'm sitting over here. I have a piece of cardboard that I've put a push pin through where the little hole is on the trigger contact,
Nice.
and she's over here with her shaky hands holding the solder out, and I in the wire, and I'm trying to sit there with
Oh shit.
she's holding the wire, and I'm trying to sit there with the torch and the solder, trying to hit it just right,
Oh
and we got
god.
so frustrated, but I was like, look, we got it done. It was so worth it. I said, now your hands were
Oh.
on this too. It's great.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, those are tough, man. Those tiny. Now, I've never soldered one of those, that specific board, but when these guys first started playing and I started fixing some of their stuff, I had to solder. I bought all the, I already had a bunch of soldering stuff from maintenance stuff. I worked in factories for a lot of years, working on machines, fixing machines. And so similar to what you've been doing the last bunch of years, I mean, a machine's a machine, whether it's a
Yeah.
car, an aircraft, or a manufacturing machine, as far as the basics go. I've been working on those forever, and we had to, I would always help the electrical guys with the minor stuff, not the the 240 stuff, opening the panels. Y'all
Yeah.
can have that shit, okay? I don't want anywhere near that stuff, okay? Uh-uh. I saw somebody get blown up, not blown up, but no, electricity like that, I'm a little scared of that, okay? But I have a healthy
Oh,
respect for that. But the little stuff, the circuit boards, and all the PLCs we were running that control a bunch of stuff, that stuff, I had a little soldering kit, so I used it on these guns. And I'm like, yeah, I can solder this shit. Yeah, right. This, bro, solder something this far away from each other when the solder drip is like a fucking, giant. And then it just globs. I'm like, how do you get it so tiny? I started buying thinner and thinner and thinner, gauges of solder, and I'm like, dude, I had the little clips. I had, the heat shrink to do the wires and stuff after and
yeah.
make everything look clean. So the normal stuff I could do, but the ones that were really close, like the solder runs over to the other connection, I'm like, oh, it's done. I just shorted it out. Whatever.
And then the ultimate disappointment when you get everything soldered together and realize that you didn't put the heat shrink on before.
Right? Oh God, I know.
I did that in auto so many times. And then, mine was always ugly. It always had so much solder on it. And I'd be like,
Yep.
okay, I'd come home and I'd be like, okay, I lived in Tennessee for a while. So I'd come home to Georgia. I'd be like,
Okay.
Dad, I need, I need you to, solder something for me. Cause he had access to all that at work, back
Yeah.
when his toolbox was there before tool control. Now he could do it at the house if he wanted to. I
Gotcha.
mean, well, toward the end, but anyway. Um, and, he would, he'd take a couple days and he'd come back and he had the prettiest soldered shrink wrap, all that. I'm like,
Really?
I'm very jealous of this because
Yeah. Well, that's years of experience.
yeah, it was and crazy skill. And some
Hmm.
people, the way that they do it is they find a specific iron that
Right.
they've bought two of 30 years ago because they don't make it anymore, and that's the iron. It's the
Gotcha.
best iron out there. And I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
can't buy that. So now what am I supposed to do?
That's a good point because we went through probably three different ones trying to find, because I got the little battery powered ones, to see like, it claimed all this stuff like, it takes two AA batteries. And then I'm like, I don't think it's going to get hot enough, just off of two AA's, but we'll see. And it would for the smaller solder, the real thin
Yeah,
solder. But it still wasn't like hot as fast as I needed it. It still took a little, like it would still stick, and it would still, and you're like, oh, it's me. I'm not doing it right. And then you get a good gun, a
yeah.
good iron, and you're like, oh shit, that's how it's supposed to go. Okay.
My I bought something that a lot of the guys had at my shop, back when I was, living in Tennessee. I bought the butane torch one that just has the
Yep.
attachments on the end.
I've
So
seen that.
you put the little end of the soldering iron type attachment on there. Now
Yep.
the cool thing about that is you can take it off and do heat shrink with just the open flame, or
Right.
my personal favorite neat trick here for anybody who wants to know. If you get I was about to say I have it behind me, but it's laying over there now. If you get the VFC stuff where you want to take the orange tip off, theirs are
Yeah.
metal, but it's mega glued on there. If you
Hmm.
set that soldering torch right down in the middle of the flash hider and just let it sit there for a little while, you can just turn that thing right off and be done with it.
Yep.
That's a neat trick, but for plastic that does not work. So you just gotta, latch vice grips on it and figure it out at that point.
Well, so I actually have a couple videos on our channel early on when I was working on these guns where I did that with the plastic one. So I had
Yeah,
the little mini torches, butane torch, whatever, and I would just take it would take a good 5 minutes, so I
yeah,
wouldn't melt the plastic, where it was like just deformed. But I would just keep running the flame back and over, back and forth over it, and I would eventually get it hot enough, warm enough to where I could grip it, and it just melted the glue, and it would come
yeah.
right off. But
The
uh,
tr-
but yeah, there was the ones they had. I'm gonna tell you the ones. There was a couple of them. I think one of them was the sniper, What's night? Was it the Barrett? Yeah, it was the Barrett, 6 millimeter pro shop, Barrett with the big fat, high flash pressure on the end. It was
Yeah.
orange. Went to take that off. That was cotter pins on there,
Really
bro.
interesting.
Fuck that. Okay, I ripped that shit apart. I
That's
I hated it till it melted so bad. I just ripped it right out of there and got the cotter pins out. It was a pain in my ass.
that's that is the secret to why that M27 up there is a short barrel now instead of the full barrel is because I cannot get the stupid tip off of it. I was
I
just like,
hear you, man.
no, we're gonna change this up a little bit, which I like. I like making stuff a little bit unique. So I mean, a short barrel M27 is cool,
Yeah.
or that Scar up there that's got the fancy metal stock on it. Don't ask me how much I paid for it; it's too much. But
I
um,
won't, but
it
I do have a couple more questions for you.
okay.
That before we end, so it's been a while. It doesn't seem like we've been talking that long because man, you're very interesting to talk to. You got a bunch of history and obviously in airsoft and a lot of other experience with other things. It's been great hearing your stories and stuff. But one thing I forgot to ask you, this whole, usually I ask somebody right away, how did you get into airsoft in the first place? 12, 13 years ago, whatever.
Like I like that. I always like that question. So unfortunately, it's not as common anymore these days, which is why it's so important to make sure, you get people into the sport. But, I saw my buddies go, to Walmart or whatever and get those little cheap spring guns.
Yep.
And so we just, have these little cheap clear plastic guns and we go run around in the yard. I think the first time I ever saw that, my buddy Jonah, who I've known since he was born, basically, he's a couple years behind me, but he had one of those spring shotguns. I was like, okay, cool, I want one of these. And so I started meeting more people that had this stuff and learning about it. And I was like, this is for me. I like this. And yeah, I never really had, you know, parents getting me the cool expensive stuff like that growing up. So all my stuff was kind of cheapish up until I was, grown and out on my own. But, to just watch my friends get like, a PTS Masada, which they don't even make anymore, like a saw machine gun. And I was like, oh, this stuff is awesome. I want more.
Yeah.
So in 2013, I actually started working for a field out here, Air Dog Airsoft. They are long gone, but I loved that place. It was an outdoor field. And when the first guys that owned the place sold the field to the guy that bought it afterwards, he sold a lot of the rentals off to get new ones. And so I picked up a Combat Machine M4 and a JG G36, and the rest was history for there. I just kept collecting and kept getting more gear. And back in 2013 ish, I was always playing at Elite Ops Airsoft, which has always been my favorite indoor field in Georgia. They're actually in the middle of a move right now. Their old field is closed down and they're building the new one from the ground up, which is exciting.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to Tristan and all of them. He runs the place, and he used to tech there in 2013, and
Oh,
now he's
shit.
GM, and still a legendary tech. But so I used to go there. Well, the person who took me there because I didn't drive back then, you may have heard of, is Aaliyah Marcello. She went by P90 Girl. She doesn't do as much airsoft anymore because she's got a family and all that now.
I have heard of
But
her. Okay.
she was I mean, she was famous back then, and I didn't really understand the scope of any of it even. She just lived in the area and she had to go to work there. So she's like, "Hey,
Oh,
who wants to come get in the car and go to Elite Ops?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come join." So I spent a lot of days out there playing indoor, and this was before the days of Speedsoft and all this other
yeah.
new age stuff right now. This was like everybody had their own little teams, and we even got in a statewide tournament one time, and that's one of my favorite airsoft memories, I think. We played, they used to call it Warehouse Wars. They played every year. All the best teams in the state would come and play, and it was a 5v5 double elimination tournament. And I remember we took 4 or 5 guys that I went to high school with, and then met with 4 guys from a field out in Covington that we didn't know from Adam.
Hmm.
So we joined together with guys that we didn't know, had no clue who they were. We lost the first game and then started running our way all the way through it. And we actually took fourth place in that tournament, just not knowing anybody from anybody else. We beat a couple really good teams, and the difference between us making third and making fourth was like somebody wasn't across the midfield line, like nobody eliminated the other team. And I was so bummed when we found that out. But that's one of my favorite memories. And I mean, to play against some of the best teams in the state, and it wasn't, speed QB and all that. Like speed QB's pretty much monopolized, the tournament style play now.
Sure.
But back then it was you'd have this team that mostly plays milsim. You have the gas blowback Russian team, which I guess is a predecessor to Speedsoft.
Yeah.
You'd have these guys that had never met before. You had just all these different teams come together. Some teams, had all their little uniforms together, and then some of us were just like, we're gonna wear whatever. It
Yep.
was a really cool environment, and I miss them doing that very much. But that was definitely one of my favorite things that I've ever uh, favorite things that I've ever done. But I mean, once I started discovering stuff like that, I mean, I knew, and I've actually been through other hobbies since then. I mean, I did stuff with cars and
Okay.
um, did collecting stuff for a while, so I would cycle in and out of hobbies. But this is the one I've always come back to. So
Hmm.
it lets me it takes all parts of my mind that I need, you know, the collecting aspect, as you can see, the
Right.
technical building, the interaction with people, being able to build people up, looking cool on the field, the tactical side that I got from the military,
Yeah.
staying fit. It's like playing video games in real life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I mean,
That's
the
a good
camaraderie,
point.
everything.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, it covers a lot of bases as far as the people's interests in hobbies, collecting the yeah, all that stuff, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the only person that doesn't like it is my wallet, but
That's another common thing for airsofters. Oh yeah.
but I mean, it's out there, I mean, it's something that I mean, my dad wouldn't get into it, but I mean, it's something you can get into with your kid,
Right?
your significant other, your parent, you can bond over it, it keeps people out of trouble. I mean, you're not out there doing bad stuff, you're
Yeah,
putting your money towards something that you're having fun doing, and
absolutely.
I mean, it can create a lot of, lifelong connections. People can get famous off of it. It's just got all kinds of just brilliant aspects, and that's why I keep coming back to it.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. And how did you come up with Callsign Cap? Obviously, Captain America. That's what the reference is.
So
And
I had
you got the shield. And I want to ask you about that because where did you get it, or how did you get it? And then, oh, you got it right there. Hell yeah, dude! That thing it looks
I kind of figured,
awesome, man. It looks awesome. And I
and it's
saw one of your
actually my
posts.
sticker board too.
Oh, that's cool. So you got your gear that has the patches, and then you got that has the stickers. Well,
Yes,
I will definitely send you, some of our stuff so you can put one of our
I love
stickers on the
that.
back of that. Yeah,
So the Captain America thing, it was just a personal thing for me, years ago. Um, Oddly enough, um, my uncle gave me an Old Navy gift card, and that wasn't somewhere I ever shopped. But I went in there and I hadn't seen any of the Marvel movies yet, so this was probably like 2010, 2011, something like that.
yeah,
Didn't know it was a big thing. And I walked in and there was a Captain America shirt. It looked a lot like this one. I mean, a
yeah.
lot like this one. And it's like, cool, I like that. I'm buying that, and that's what I use
Hmm.
my money for. And I started kind of learning about Captain America. I had the want to be in the military. I was JROTC back then, and I liked helping people. I liked being there for people. I didn't like people who kick people around, push people around. All that stuff was in
Yeah,
Captain America's character. So I was like, this is me. This is.
yeah,
And so when I was I started playing Airsoft. That's what I started, just started sticking stuff to my gear and wearing the shirts all the time, and it just kind of stuck. And I mean, from what super publicly like I do, I'm the only one that represents myself with the Captain America thing, which is awesome. I mean, shout out to some of those people that are, the predominant person like that, or that represent themselves with a certain character. Like there's a guy in Germany, I want to say, that looks just like Jeremy Renner, and he goes by Callsign Hawkeye.
Oh shit.
There's a girl in Chile that does Black Widow and does all the cosplay when she plays, and there's a Hulk here in the U.S. and
Nice.
all those. There used to be an Iron Man, but he shut his social media down. But yeah, all those people are awesome, and to be that predominant person that represents yourself with that character, it's really cool because it doesn't stop at Airsoft. I went. I'll do it for Halloween a lot of times. I mean, I did a church event here recently where we were just there to help. It was a fall festival thing. We were just there to help the kids, or a trunk or treat a couple years back for my car dealership. And you take the shield out there and
Oh yeah.
you wear all the Captain America stuff, and these kids are like, "Whoa, you're him." And they start, talking to you like you're him and all that stuff. And it's just like, I have a full size uh, foam Thor hammer too.
Oh
So after
nice.
the whole in-game thing, I'd take that out sometimes too, and tell the kids, hey, can you pick it up?
That's
And
awesome.
it's just fun. It's fun you know be associated with a character that everybody knows, but you also kind of live up to that. I mean, I try to, I mean, he was the leader. I try to help lead and motivate people. When I go out and play. I mean, hey, get into the fight. You're not going to get any. You're not going to get it. You're not going to better yourself. Standing in the back, just waiting. Type
Right.
stuff. And it's just, I mean, that was the biggest thing at high ground. That was the thing that made the biggest difference to me, was to be able to stand out like that. The shield catches everybody's eye. And, to have
Definitely.
people take pictures with me, or, whoa, you're Captain America. And I met another guy that was doing Deadpool, and he was really cool. And we talked for a while and shook hands because of it. And, um, I got to interview with a guy, which I was bummed out because a lot of the footage was ruined by the wind and the microphone,
Oh,
but so it didn't
right.
get on YouTube. But it was just a cool experience, and it's just you get a lot of attention that way.
Sure.
And the shield itself, um, my first shield was metal and it wasn't as realistic looking. And I actually walked into a pop culture store in the mall in Knoxville and I said, "Hey, can I buy that?" And they're like, "Well, it's not for sale, but I can go try to find out how much."
Oh
And I
shit.
actually took it off their hands,
Oh my
and
god.
I
That's cool.
stuck my YouTube, because I was doing a few YouTube videos back then. I stuck my YouTube and my Instagram, vinyl stickers across it, and I'd carry it to the field just like I do this one every time, and be like, "Hey, follow me. It's right here. All you got to do is pull the phone out and, click on it and all
Oh
that."
shit. Nice.
And, you get extra followers that way. But I mean, it's really cool to be able to have, a way to something to associate yourself with like that, especially a character that embodies kind of the way that you are as a person. And to have props like that, that people are like, "Whoa, that's incredible." I mean, the thing was like $110 at a pop culture store. It was a gift. I'm not going to say from who, because it's not somebody who is in my life anymore nor deserves the recognition,
Gotcha.
unfortunately. But
Yeah.
um it was a really cool gift. I mean, it's a little beat up, but I mean, I said, if you're not out there playing around with it, you're not having fun.
Yeah.
And because it was actually, the first week I had it was July 4th, which is, surprise, surprise, is my favorite holiday. And her little brother was out there playing with it. He was like 4 or something like that, just having a grand old time. And she got mad at me for it. I'm like, "What? It's meant to be played with, let the kid have his fun."
Right.
And people always ask me, "Oh, are you going to take it out on the field?" And I'm like, "Well, I have. It's not really practical because I'm 6 feet tall, but my home field used to do the used to let me play with it and the rifle. Now they just do pistol with shields, but
Gotcha.
I used to be able to play with it and the rifle, so I just set the rifle up on top of it
Oh,
and run
nice.
around. Um, I think I think the best thing, probably the best quote that came out of Captain America from the comics was you probably Peggy Carter said it in the movies, and I can't remember the whole thing. It's on the back of my shirt right now, but talking about when everybody's going against you, you stand there and don't allow yourself to be moved, which is true in a lot of things, especially the way the world is nowadays. But I really liked where they went recently with the newer Captain America stuff. With you always knew who Captain America was, but when they in the TV series when they made that new guy, the face of the country, the super soldier, the new Captain America, he was this Captain America was this kid from Queens, this young guy. He got kicked around and bullied all the time,
Right.
but he was a good-hearted person. And
Right.
they turned him into this. They turned, that's why they chose him, and they turned him into the super soldier. And he never forgot who he was,
Right.
and never stopped being who he was. When they took the guy in the TV series and handed him the shield, they picked him as the top of the top, the best of the best soldier out of the military, and they said, "Here, this is yours now." So of course, what does that give you? A big, huge head. You're
Mm-hmm.
awful at the job, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point that they were making. You, uh, you know, a, you have to be a great man first to be a great soldier. You're not going to be a great soldier and turn him into that great man, that superhero, and fill those shoes. You have
That's
to
a
have a
great
good heart.
point. It really is, man. And it's such a subtle thing. Sometimes people don't realize they're in that mindset when they, in this, not just super soldiers or superheroes, but in real life, when people get to a certain level or point, whatever it is, whether it's, content creator and they have some success with that, or they, in a career or whatever, and they get that ego gets in their way and they don't realize it, and I've talked about this before on a couple podcasts previously, where the reason I went in the Marine Corps was I was getting bullied when I was like 8, 9 years old. I'm in elementary school, and these guys were in high school. Young high. They were probably in eighth or ninth grade, but a lot older than us. And they would beat up me and my buddies, and they would. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but there was a couple year period where, man, I was terrified to walk home from school. They would just. I mean, I'm talking not words, okay? Not like what they call bullying today. Not words. I'm talking punches to the face, punches to the gut, throwing me face first into a tree, taking my book bag. We didn't have backpacks back then, but book bag and just dumping my shit all over the place, kicking it in the street. And I was terrified. Um, but, and that's what, eventually I was like, I want to go in the military. Originally, I was like, I'm going to go in the military, and so no one will mess with me. And then later on, it was, I want to, probably when I was like 11, my dad was playing cards with his buddies, and my dad was in the Navy. All his buddies were Marines from World War II and stuff. And that's why I was like, okay, Marines, definitely no one's going to fuck with me if I'm a Marine.
Yep, on the
Well,
top. Yep.
yeah. And when I'm 12, 13, I had a growth spurt. And honestly, kind of like, I think it was it was a good thing and good timing for that, because I had years before I went in the military to kind of I was bigger than everyone, like for the first
Yeah.
time. And so in sixth and seventh grade, I'm like taller than ever. I was at 12 years old. I was 5'10" and a half, or I'm 5'11" now. And so I had a few years when I was still young, were just coming out of getting my ass beat, right? So I didn't like bullies, but I stuck up for the little guys, because
Yep.
I had this size now, and but I wasn't vengeful. I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking now I'm gonna turn this around, and now that I have this size, so I had time to get over that kind of ego part, because I was so damaged, like just beat up or whatever for a couple years. I had time before I was, an older teenager to get over that kind of stuff and get over myself and get over that. I didn't have resentments, I got over them. And I realized, okay, whatever, and honestly, looking back on it now, if I can meet those guys today, the two guys that used to beat my ass, um, I'd thank them because it made me who I am, honestly. I was tougher for it. Um, I made certain decisions that I'm really glad I made because of it.
And to me, that it was really similar for me because I was like that too. I was always getting kicked around without, really giving anybody any reason, and that's why I became how I am. I mean, bad home life was like that too. I mean, sometimes the best things that your parents can teach you is what not to be in certain
Right.
cases. And it gave me a sort of, calm to not fight back unless I had to, and a level of forgiveness to where you don't get vengeful and hateful with people. And,
Hmm.
the one of that's why I live the way I do. I mean, it does standing up for people that can't stand up for themselves to some pretty awful people. It comes second nature to me.
Yeah.
And, obviously, superheroes as we see them on TV aren't real. But if you watch a lot of the Marvel stuff, a lot of those people, they're not super and they're not perfect. They've all got their flaws, and it's supposed to be kind of representative of how we are as humans.
Yeah.
And yeah, superheroes aren't real, but you may be the only thing standing in between, for example, somebody in taking their own life, or
Right.
maybe the only thing standing in front of somebody, between somebody and an abuser. Those situations come up in everyday life, and people who have grown up a certain way and who have kind of shaped themselves a certain way are good at that. And those are the kind of people that need to be there for people, and not be vengeful. Sometimes the best vengeance, as they say, is living a happy life and helping somebody
Right.
else live a happy life in the face of that. So
Absolutely.
that's just, and as you mentioned the Marine Corps. I'll give you a Semper Fi from my dad because that
Oh
was his.
shit.
He was Air Wing.
Oh shit. Nice. Okay.
I did not mean
Hoorah.
to do that. I'm sorry.
Where'd your camera go? Oh,
I'm
that's your
sorry.
phone.
I did
That's
not mean
right.
to do that.
That's okay. You're fine.
So yeah,
You actually
that
picked
was
it up quick. So your dad was in the Marines in the Air Wing. Okay.
yeah. And
Oh, that's awesome.
you talk about not being bullied in the Marine Corps. Those guys got bullied because they were not grunts, and Dad said there was like 3 or 4 jobs you could take that wasn't grunts.
Oh yeah.
And his ASVAB score, his recruiter said, "You're not going to be a grunt. I don't care what you tell me. You're going to do
Oh
something
yeah.
smart."
He was smart. Yeah.
And he did his 4 years, and they got rid of his airplane, so he took his out and
Okay.
went to Delta and worked there 33 years.
Wow.
So walking in his footsteps is what I'm trying to do right now with that.
Yeah, dude. That's cool. Yeah, I did four as well and got out, and my wife and I started having kids right away. Dude, the first year we got married, we were 21. I still had 2 years left in the Marine Corps, and the first month we're married, I want to have kids. I was like, bro, chill out, okay? Slow down, killer. We're trying to spend time together. We're out here in Southern California. I was stationed at Pendleton, but
Yep.
my wife, yeah. So we ended up having five kids, and
Oh
two of
wow.
them, yeah, two of them are. I have three boys, two girls. Two of them are on my YouTube channel. So
Okay.
there's four of us on the YouTube channel: me, JP, Coltrane, and Chris. Well, Coltrane and Chris are my sons. So
Okay.
yeah, and that's how the YouTube channel started because they started playing, I started filming, and so. Um, but anyway, yeah, that was
I
you
I
know,
I aspire for that one day to be able to do that with my kids because my dad wasn't really into getting into what, his kids were into. My dad actually wanted me to be good at sports, and I was
Yeah.
never fully good at any specific sport, so he didn't like it.
Oh yeah.
But later on, I'm like, dude, you need to try this airsoft thing. Try some video games and whatever. He just wouldn't do it, and I'm like,
Gotcha.
but that's gonna be me with my kids one day. I'm gonna be like, video
Yeah.
games, sign me up.
Yeah,
Come
dude.
try this airsoft thing. It's fun, and I'm grateful that even though Mara won't come and join me and play, that she wants to be a big part of everything. So
Yeah,
she
that's
wants me to
really
be happy
special,
and do what
man.
I do.
Really special. That's cool.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
I have one last question for you, and then we'll get your get some of your info so I can
Okay.
shout you out and get people to get your Instagram even more. You're growing
Yes,
fast,
sir.
man. That's good. Hell yeah. That way, when you get your YouTube channel going, that and you stop overthinking it and just do it. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, you just got to start, and then everyone starts at some point. Okay, we all have a starting point. You'll get better along the way. It'll be fine. Um, we'll get that, and then we'll let everybody know what your help you grow your Instagram and stuff. But you're in Georgia. I'm in South Carolina. I'm only 2 hours away from SS Airsoft. How far are you away from there? Do you know where
Probably
that's at?
40. Yeah, it's Sugar Hill.
Yeah,
Oh, real quick on that subject before actually I'll give you my second favorite memory here real quick because
yeah,
it involves SS. So I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the closest field to Knoxville was Chattanooga, which was like an hour out.
yeah.
And I was more than excited to start playing more fields. So, in my infinite brilliance, I decided that I was going to play 4 fields in one weekend
Holy
and
shit!
scheduled it out. 2 states, 4 fields.
Oh
And
Lord.
so I drove out to Chattanooga on Friday night. I played Insane Airsoft in Chattanooga, drove back home, slept a little bit, and I drove right down five through Tennessee down 575. I hit SS during the morning time. Had a great time there. Went to SWAT Airsoft, which is now Fort 13, that evening. Absolutely love that place. It's actually outdoor now, but those people make you feel like family.
Wow.
And then I went from there. I slept in my car overnight and went to Team Airsoft Georgetown, which is actually our probably the most comprehensive outdoor field that we have in the state, which is in Dawsonville.
Nice.
And I did all that in 4 day in 3 days time. It was
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Like these people were handing me patches for the fields and all that other stuff. Like they're like, "You did what?" And I had like all 4 wristbands on my hand. It was crazy.
Oh my God, dude. That's crazy, bro. Yeah,
But
that is a
yeah,
that's an airsoft trip for sure.
oh yeah. But I've always aspired to do what the Marcellos used to do. P90 girl and her whole family,
Yeah.
they would just go play. They wouldn't take their gear with them, and they would go if they were on vacation. They'd go grab rental gear and play, just
Yeah.
kick people's butts
With all the rental stuff.
with all the rental stuff. And I was like, I'm doing that one day. But
That
but
is
yeah. So
wild.
SS is probably somewhere between an hour and a half. I'd have to say it's north side of Atlanta, so not far.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because I'm only 2 hours away from there, from SS. I've never been there. I just saw a couple days ago that they posted they're having a Call of Duty event on September 2nd and 3rd, which is a Friday and Saturday. Uh, and they're having most of the group from Call of Duty. So Jammer Actual, who is Call of Duty Ghost, his
Yeah,
Instagram is Jammer Actual. Alex Zedra, and then there's two others that are in Call of Duty characters, and they're all going to be there, and it's going to be this Call of Duty event. Now, I have followed Jammer Actual for probably a couple months, and I think I found out about him from I found out about him from it was probably Honey Badger because this dude talks to everybody, but it might have been somebody else that I talked with, but he's a Marine as well. He was in the Marines, and he was special forces in the Marines. So I have chatted with him, yeah, a couple times, and I actually asked him the last time, it was like 2, 3 weeks ago. He posted on his Instagram something about back to SS or going somewhere for an event where to for airsoft, because he's a real steel guy, and but he had done the event there for the launch of Call of Duty. And, oh no, he was at the 12-year anniversary at SS. That's what it was. So he posted yeah, like 3 weeks ago saying, should I do another airsoft event? And everyone was like, of course, yes. And I said, yeah, hell yes. And I'd love to have you on the podcast, right? So I've asked him a couple times to be on the podcast. So I am looking forward. I'm going to this event in Georgia on September 2nd and 3rd. And I'm trying to get the rest of my guys, my two sons and their friend JP, to go down there so we can all go as the trifecta team and go down there and meet everybody. So, and we'll be filming and passing out stickers and shit. So, but anyway, if you are available that weekend, I would love to meet you there. That'd be great.
Because I saw the ad for this and I can't remember. Did you say it was the 2nd of September?
Oh yeah, yeah, the 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah,
So the second is Friday.
I'm already going to be absolutely psyched at that point because I'm actually off the entire next week. I did see that event and I meant to share it on my story and it got like discarded or something like that and I couldn't find it again. But yes, I'll absolutely be there and I'm going to try to be
Oh
there
shit.
with all four of my guys too.
Oh, that'd be awesome, dude. Hey, listen, do you follow Spooky Airsoft?
I do. I was just talking to her the other day too.
Yeah, her. So her husband was a Marine as well. So Nick
Yeah, yeah,
Sandberg, yeah, Sandy Cheeks.
yeah. I was just talking about him the other day because I give Mara grief all the time about that. I'm like, look at this
Yeah,
married couple. They
look,
play
look,
together. Let's go
she's
play.
playing. She's playing.
But yeah, I
Oh
was just
yeah,
talking to them about that and how I just thought it was interesting how she does like all that, to market herself and get all the followers and all that. And
right.
he doesn't do a lot of that. He just has fun with it. So I'm like, see, there's something different for literally everyone.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's cool. So I'm guessing they're going to be there because that's their home field.
Oh
I haven't
yeah,
talked to them yet, but I'm assuming they will be. I'm supposed to do a podcast with her next week. So
that's gonna be
I'm
exciting too.
yeah, dude. I can't wait. It'll be our first time. Like I said, my first time going to SS. So I'm really excited. And of course that event, and I'm going to get to meet all these people that I've been wanting to meet.
I'll give you if you haven't talked to them yet. I'll give you another cool couple that you might be able to talk to. They're on some really good speed soft team up in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
The girl goes by Mama Yaga Airsoft, and the guy's
Oh,
name's Dylan. They date, and they're really kind, down to earth people that would probably love to talk to you as well.
I would love to have her on. Actually, I don't remember if I've sent her a message on here or on Instagram yet. If I've asked her. I started
Yeah,
following her back when I started doing podcasts with all the girls, airsoft
yep,
girls throughout. Uh, and I was going to say, throughout the UK, I've talked to a handful of girls out in the UK. A bunch of them that play at Dirty Dog.
yep.
So
I talked to a lot of the ones that play over there too, and just a
yeah,
lot of great people that play in that area.
yeah, absolutely. So I haven't done one with her yet, but I'll have to definitely get her on here. That'd be cool.
Yeah, she's one of that handful of people that I'll interact back and forth with every now and then. And Dylan's really awesome too. They're just they're really good people. There's a lot of really good people like that out there that
Yeah,
you know are really worth talking to, hearing all the stories from and all that.
for sure. Well, man, listen, it has been great talking with you. Man, so many stories, and you got a broad background. It's really cool. You sound like a wonderful person, man. Just wholesome,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, dude, it's really cool to see. A lot of experience in airsoft, a lot of experience with 105 guns over the last 12, whatever, 10 years. um, a lot of trial and error and learning
Yeah.
stuff and driving, 12 hours to an event and 12 hours back, like in the same, 24-hour period. That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's cool, man. You got some good stuff going on, man. I am glad that we met.
Absolutely. Me too.
Awesome, dude. Well, listen, everybody, everyone that watches this and listens to this, go to Callsign Cap. That's CAP uh, on Instagram, and Adam, I'll have a link in the description when this video comes out. And also I take the audio and put it on
Yeah.
all podcast apps. I put it on
Okay.
Spotify, iHeartRadio. I mean, I don't literally put it on there. I put it on one service that I pay for, and it puts out to all that. But it's
That's
on.
awesome.
It's available on every podcast app you can think of. So I'll have the description. Your all your info. Well, not all your info. Your Instagram in there on that, and the YouTube video as well. This will come out early next week, and yeah, man, it's been a wonderful Friday night talking with you, bro. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, bro. We'll have to do it again, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
September 2nd. Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. All right, man. You have a good night, brother.
You as well.
All right, guys. Have a good night,
All right.
everybody.